Okay. So JC had asked how to get the corners on the whip stitching.
Oh yeah, I saw that question.
And I don't know if this is going to be new for either of you, because I think you do whip stitching quite a lot. So I have a piece here that I've started whip stitching.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is when I start a new piece, I just kind of go on the back. Rather than make knots.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just go through on the back.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And then I fold my whip stitching back, and I don't clip it, but I know people do.
I do only if it's like a big piece or the material's not, like with monk's cloth, it's easier to clip it.
Yeah.
Sometimes because it flops open.
Yeah. And I try to get on the top side, I try to get as close to the loops as possible.
Yeah.
So that everything is covered.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, it's just an around and around and around motion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep whip stitching this piece until I get pretty close to the corner so that I can do, you know, so that I can do that next corner and have it recorded for JC.
Yep.
In the meantime, while I'm doing this, have you thought about how you want to finish these pieces that you're working on?
Yeah, well, this one, I'm probably just putting it on a frame in the way I've done other ones.
Yeah.
I cut it to do that, I'm realizing. So I don't really have a whole lot of play to do other stuff. And that's the stuff that I know Jean commented on, which was really helpful because I stapled it to a frame. But Jean was good to point out to me, like, make sure they're stainless steel staples and the brass stuff, if I ever put brass hooks in. So that's probably what I'm doing, which means there'll be like an exposed linen around the edge, which I don't mind.
I have to make a caveat to what I told you though, because I said you could also use galvanized and you can't, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, galvanized is different than stainless, apparently.
Galvanized will start to rust too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to double check on some of mine. I'll be more, yeah. May have to take a hardware store trip today. Because I got a really good stapler. Like I got the electric stapler because I could not do it otherwise.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it, but I do, yeah. I don't want it to rust over time.
Gee, look at the back of mine already.
Good.
What a mess, eh?
I don't feel so bad. I was pulling up all little loose ends on my pine needle part last night because I was getting frustrated with all the, kind of adds a little interesting dimension to it.
So, I mean, the way I usually decide on how I'm going to finish something is like, you know, how do I want to hang it? Do I want the finish to be visible or invisible?
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously whip stitching is a very visible finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's not for everything. Like I've made pieces that I thought would absolutely be ruined if I had a visible finish on them.
Yeah. I have to say, the pieces of mine that I've kept for myself that I haven't framed, I didn't even think about whip stitching them because I was just so exhausted and I didn't feel like doing it after I finished it.
Yeah.
I kind of like the clean, just folding it over and having a small rug.
Yeah.
Just mitering it, you know, just like folding it over and doing mitered corners and just leaving it at that.
Yeah.
But sometimes that doesn't, I guess when I'm thinking about ones that I want to hang or whatever, I go back and forth about whether they should be on something firm and solid or if they should be rug-like.
Yeah. I mean, I have I'm just going to be starting to mount some of mine
Mhm.
on artist's canvas, like we
Yeah.
talked about the other day.
Yeah.
And I should bring down a piece I have of Susan Feller's to show you. I'll do that at some point today, how she
Awesome.
mounted hers.
Yeah.
It's her Get Hooked at Sea piece, actually, which she gave to me as a gift.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
Yeah, because she's a good framer.
she's a really good framer. I mean, she did it professionally.
Right.
And, you know, that's another thing. We could probably get Susan in to talk about mounting
Mm-hmm.
hooked rugs and preparing them for shows and stuff.
Yeah. I guess with this series, quote unquote, that I'm trying to do, I guess I want them to all be mounted the same way. So that's why I'm sticking to my little frame. I'm repurposing. I think I said that somewhere in some post. I'm repurposing like those little mini canvases that my kids painted on at one point.
Yeah.
And I tore off all of their artwork. I took pictures of it and then tore off the artwork and then pulled out the staples. And now I'm just using a blank frame. But then I'm realizing I want to cover the frame. So I'm like putting cotton over it. And so anyway, in the future, I'll just buy them and wrap it around the canvas. But
yeah, I mean, where I got mine, I have a set of little 5x7s.
mm-hmm.
And I got them at Ocean State Job Lot.
Yeah. No, and these are the equivalent. These are like Michael's things.
Yeah.
Kids' stuff had been on. I didn't need their art anymore because, as you, I'm sure, know, like you can only hold on to so much of your children's art over time.
I used to create little me books and the pages were their artwork.
Oh,
So
yeah?
they always worked on 8.5 by 11. So I could punch holes on the edge of it and put cardstock on either side. And then I'd just ply some yarn and ply it. I actually had them help me do that. And then I just stuck the yarn through the hole punch holes and me books. But it was great because they churned out artwork like nobody's business.
Oh, when they're young, especially, they're just doing it all the time. And I encouraged it a lot. So I've got like file boxes full of.
Well, you need to have them go through it and pick their favorite ones, or you pick your favorite ones if they're older.
Well, that's kind of what I did initially, was I picked the favorite ones. But yeah, I keep thinking they're great. Someday they should become fiber art.
There's great artwork for them, and then there's inspiration for you.
Yeah. Well, I did at some point this last year, I made a punch needle piece out of a lemonade sign that my kids had made selling lemonade like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just made a replica of it. It's just very cute. The way my daughter had drawn it was just very sweet. So. And
my son did, he did this amazing ceramic fish that's hanging in my camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to make a hook rug out of it.
Yeah.
It's really neat. Yeah.
There's just something the way that kids' brains are just so uninhibited when they create stuff that.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's very cool.
They can come up with some very natural combinations. I remember.
Exactly. Yep.
Remember one of my daughters came up with a great color combination. It was just a bunch of paint smeared on the paper, but it was beautiful. It was like sunset colors, eh?
Yeah. Yep. I have ones I've kept because I remember documenting them working on them at the time. Like I have this one that looks like sort of like who's the artist? I think it's Klein. He like just does big black shapes, and my son, I have the little canvas that he made, but the process of him working on it, I happened to video him doing it, and it went from like being so many colors to ultimately just being black.
Wow.
So it's just so amusing. The process that they use is, that's ultimately what they're doing, is really focusing more on the process than the outcome. But
right, which is
when they start thinking about the outcome, that then they become a critic, and then they don't then they don't do it so freely. Anyway,
I'm almost to this
I'm gonna say,
corner,
are you at the corner yet?
getting there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. No, it's
Um,
fine.
Yeah, I tend to like my rugs just hung as rugs,
Mm,
the bigger ones anyway.
mhm.
But like, I have all these little pieces that are like, I've been using these as finishing. These are just little
yeah.
pieces that these were prototypes for the kits that I sell through Darn Good Yarn.
Mhm.
And these probably would have been better off like mounted somehow, but I keep using them as this.
Like what you're doing. Yeah.
As examples for finishing. Yeah. So I take it, I feel like, you know, when I teach this class to people who aren't as experienced, I have to take them through the whole steaming process. And I am, you know, I have a video of that on YouTube. And I think everyone in this particular class is pretty experienced with how to do that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, not to, you know, that you're just supposed to kind of, I think the mistake most beginners make is they want to slide the iron,
Yeah. Yep.
and you don't want to do that.
Nope.
Or they want to put steam in the iron, and that's not necessary.
Right. I mistakenly, like when I started this whole process, I had a really old iron and then it died. So I went out and bought myself a new iron with all these bells and whistles, and then realized it's the kind of iron that for some reason doesn't have a steam off option at the high temperatures.
Yeah.
So I have to keep it empty. Like when
Yeah.
it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, the things you learn.
Well, that's interesting because I steam my pieces, but I put them on a big thick towel. So
That's
they
what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
crush the loops. But I would only steam if the fibers can handle it. Like if I've got nylon in there, there's no way it's going.
No. Mhm.
Right. That's what I was talking about yesterday. Like if you're steaming with alternative fibers, you have to be really careful what you've got. But
Yeah.
like for me, it's just the wet top towel that's providing the steam.
Yeah, that's what I do. I have like a tea towel collection that I
Yeah.
wet and do.
I
So
have that too.
What I love is how my area here smells like a wet barn. And I'm
Yeah.
I do love that.
Yeah.
Smells like a barn of wet sheep. At least that's what the yarn does. Anyway, yarn does that. Maybe wool.
Especially pretty nice sort of natural
Yes.
wool yarn will do that.
Yeah.
Because I've had that happen when I've used shaker yarn.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Smelling like a wet dog or wet sheep in here.
So when I get to the corners, I'm
Okay,
I'm
let's see
how you
approaching
do.
this corner. Now
Hey, maybe you should spotlight yourself so you're a bit bigger,
oh, okay.
just especially for JC. You wanted to see it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
There you
All
go.
right. So I'm approaching this corner here. It's going to be another couple of iterations, but I don't clip it or anything. I work around the corner. You know, when I get there, I'm going to be holding it like this. And I'm just going to be working around it.
I'm curious what your method is, because I have a method I use more on monk's cloth. I haven't whip stitched linen yet, but I have a corner technique I use. I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah, and I'd love to see everybody's corner technique because I suspect they're all a little different.
Sometimes it depends on how much bulk of fabric I've got, whether I can pull it off, but.
What are you whipping with, Beth?
It's like a,
Oh,
It's pretty.
yeah, and
The yarn.
it's picking up the colors in this sort of
yeah, it's
random.
a little thicker than what I normally use. That's all.
Oh yeah, I've used really thin yarns. I've used thick yarns. I've used silk. Ellen Marshall uses size 8 strips.
Mhm.
For a lot of her stuff. What's going on here?
Yeah, I tend to, with my punch pieces, I use the Briggs and Little super weight
Super, yeah, that's a really nice, heavy,
when it just goes quick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I chose this one as opposed to, I've got another one going with a, see
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a much thinner.
yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, when I get to the corners, I'm still not quite there yet. I should have picked one that I was closer to the corner.
All right.
It's not putting me out.
Yeah, I figure we have like time.
Yeah.
So I'm approaching this corner and I start to do this thing where I'm working back and forth. And I
Mhm.
don't know if this is what you guys do or not. So I'm here
Mhm.
and now I'm going to actually put one over here. Now that I'm kind of into the corner. This is where it gets a little fussy.
Are you going on the other side?
You know what? I'm going to do one more over here. Yeah, I actually go and start working on the other side,
Mhm.
like over here.
Mhm.
You guys see that?
Mhm.
And then I start working my way back.
Do I have any pieces?
Like this. So I'm kind of going one to the other. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And this is where it gets fussy.
Interesting.
Now, I don't know how you guys do it, but I'm just kind of like, so what it ends up being is pretty even one side to the other as I work this corner.
And then when you get to the middle,
And it's not, it's definitely not turning out perfect on this corner, probably because I'm being watched. But I just, and you know, JC's question was without it getting too bulky, right?
yeah, that's the hard part. Yeah.
I do try really hard. There are places that I have to cover more than once, but I try not to get into a thing where I'm covering it like, you know, 3 or
Yeah.
4 times. And I'm trying to be really precise where I place it at this corner. So I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Trying to look, I don't have any pieces that are.
How do you guys do it?
So I like that. Sometimes I make it up each time, but I've done the method where when you get to the corner, you start, I have to think, you start making little stitches using like if you were to run a line from the point down,
Yeah.
then you do little stitches back and forth on either side of that line, so that instead of having the big ones that you're doing lots of little ones from that corner line, from that 45-degree angle out to the edge. So each stitch gets a little shorter until you get to the tip. And then you run the tip with a couple of small loops, and then you do the same thing going from that 45-degree angle back on the other side, with each strip then getting longer until you can start running regular whip stitch again.
Wow.
So
Now that's interesting because the way I'm doing it now is.
Do you have one? Do you have one right there that I can spotlight, Jean?
Oh,
I'm gonna see if I can find one more.
actually, they're all upstairs. Just
Okay, because I was going to say if we can show that, however. So what I'm going to do now is I've got it hanging out the front.
Yeah,
I'm going to just go
I
back
like this
under.
method though too.
I'm just going to go back. And what I like about this is it tends to make me mindful enough to keep the corner a corner.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
sometimes the corner can get flattened in.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yep.
And so.
And the method I'm talking about works as long as you've got the right side. You can't do it with too big of a yarn. And it does require like a really precise corner. but it helps keep the corner square also. It just takes a little bit more work.
I didn't do square corners on mine. I kind of gave up and said they were going to be rounded.
Okay, which is
Okay.
fine too.
Yep.
If, I do it this way because I feel like, here, let me remove my spotlight and put your spotlight on for another.
Oh yeah, those are nice and rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about those, Jean, is that they're evenly rounded.
They
Sometimes if
are.
I'm not paying attention.
But a lot of people, I think, I don't know how worried or concerned I should be about this. It looks great from the front, but you look at the back, there's lots of spaces where you can see the backing, eh?
Yeah, I have a little bit of that going on too.
But I
Mhm.
don't think that's as important as getting the front right.
Right.
Correct.
Hopefully they're not
Exactly.
going to hang it up backwards on the wall.
The only time I get obsessive about whip stitching in that regard is when I'm making trivets, because I want both sides to be, this is punch needle, but I want them to be pretty reversible.
Oh,
Yeah.
My mother kills me. I made her this beautiful chair pad of a tree of life, and every time I go to their house, she has it upside down. And I'm like, why? Because she likes the flat embroidery side better.
okay.
And each time I go, I secretly flip it over.
Now it's interesting, when I was taught to do standard whipping, one of the ways they had me do the corners was the way you described it, Stacy.
Yeah,
Just kind of imagined an angled line
right.
in the corner, and you stitched to that angled line.
Yep,
And then
exactly.
you turned and went the other way and stitched that angled line and kept on whipping.
Yep.
But I found that sometimes even that didn't cover the very tip.
Well, you have to run, like when you get to the tip, you've reached the point where you can't do any more of those little straight stitches. Then you
Yeah.
have to run like
A
almost
full
like
one.
3 stitches out of the same hole,
Oh, do you?
so that they wrap the corner, and then you continue getting
Yeah.
bigger. But it makes, instead of having a corner though that's got all the same size strips, you end up with like, if you look closely, you can see that tapered effect to the
Yes,
corner.
yes. And
So-
that makes a sharper point.
Yeah, but you do have to whip it like 3 times or so across the corner.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I
Yes.
don't do it that way every time sometimes. So it's just, but I guess sometimes it's really small pieces I'm working on, and those I don't. I just do
Yeah.
whatever I can do to keep it straight.
I think whatever technique you use, you're going to get a little more bulk at that corner.
Yeah.
Just because otherwise it's going to be really hard to
Mhm.
to cover it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, like what I try to do here, and it sounds like with the other method you're talking about, the idea is to try to minimize it.
Trying to think, I'm trying to think, I don't do that many square corners whip stitch. So I'm trying to think, must be pillows that I've maybe done it on when I've covered the monk's cloth,
Yeah.
and then I've done it that way, but I don't think I've got any around.
So the only other thing I'm going to show here is that when I get like to the point where I want, it's the same thing as when I started. I don't make a knot or anything. I just run the yarn
Through.
under like this and then cut it.
Yep.
So some of this stuff might be useful. Like there's, even though, you've already done it. Like for example, Kim Bentley is new to rug hooking. She's not new to being an artist. She's an established ceramics artist and visual artist, but she's new to rug hooking. So some of these might be really helpful for her. But anyway, so that's whip stitching. And then the next thing I have is a piece that I am attaching a twill tape binding to. So yeah.
I've done a lot of that.
I even bought twill tape from you and I still haven't done it. So
yeah, so this is not hard. There are a couple of things with twill tape binding that I think are really important. I guess I should spotlight myself again. Hang on. All right, so there's a few things that I think are really important with twill tape binding. One is make sure that your thread is super, super strong, because you're going to be pulling on it.
yeah.
And if it breaks, you're going to really be frustrated. So I use, like, this is
Upholstery, buttonhole.
This is like, yeah, you can use buttonhole, or this is like a Gutermann polyester that's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's must be what I buy.
And I also have, which I absolutely love, I have a couple of spools of thread that I think were used in the shoe mills, but it's
Nice.
not the super heavy. But I got it actually at a vintage shop, and that thread is bulletproof. It's just amazing.
Okay.
So the other thing is, this is all wrinkled. It shouldn't be this way. This is all wrinkled because I have stored my finishing demonstration pieces in a box. I don't ever start my twill tape binding at a corner. It's often people who are new want to start it at the corner because it just feels natural, but you really don't want to end up with your seam there, because when you come all the way around, you're going to have a place where you need to join it.
Okay.
On the back side like this.
Yeah.
And you just don't want it right at the corner. It's going to make a total pain in the neck for you. Some people will do a nice sort of quilting
Yeah.
angled edge when they join the twill tape on the back. I personally cannot be bothered. My twill tape bindings are all just kind of folded neatly, and you know, I'll show you a couple of examples. But okay, so the stitch is really simple. It's going to be really important that you hold the other thing is you want to match your thread to the binding. It doesn't matter whether it matches what's on top side because it's hidden, but you will see tiny little stitches in the binding itself on the edge. So that the thread should match the binding as closely as possible. That's also true of pillow backs. All right. So I have started this. When I started it, I would have started with a knot, obviously, but you know, I'm kind of into it now. So the stitch is, I'm going between, like about halfway between two loops. I'm coming out a tiny little bit to grab this twill tape. The yarn is going to, or the thread is going to hide down between those loops, and I'm going to pull it really tightly so that the edge is showing no foundation whatsoever. If I don't pull it tightly enough, I'm going to get peekaboo edges. So now I've done that. I'm going to go back under two loops, come back up in between two loops. I'm kind of doing
Are you
this.
going back in where you came out on those loops? When you're going back to go back under?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And I'm pulling tightly again, which is going to pull that last stitch.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go back in, pull, 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 pull. And this is where inferior thread breaks. It just breaks. And then you're like, shit.
Crud. Yeah, exactly. Then you have to go back stitch over what you've done or something.
Well, precisely, because
Yeah.
now you don't have, you know, you have to go back a few loops because now it's broken.
Yep.
So I'm going to get up to the corner so that I can show you how to do a corner.
So what's the point of twill tape?
So twill tape, first of all, it covers your edge. I don't know if you've ever seen antique rugs that have just been turned under.
Yeah.
And the edge has just gotten the daylights beaten out of it because it's completely exposed. And the foundation, especially when it was burlap, not as much today, but that was fragile.
It gets worn. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep, makes sense.
So this is a really nice way to protect your edge.
Okay. So that's where it comes from traditionally, probably.
I think so. What do you think, Jean?
Yeah.
I would guess so. With a material like linen or burlap, it's gonna get worn being walked on.
Anything.
Yeah.
Any foundation is going to be fragile. I just also think it's a nice finish. Like
Yeah.
I think I took all my finished pieces back into the studio last night, but I just think it's if you don't want an edge, if you don't want a finish that shows,
Mhm.
I think it's a nice, neat
Mhm.
finish for the back.
Mhm.
There's Stacy. There's
Oh,
one.
yeah. Okay. You've just folded it over. Yep.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just kind of protecting it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
primarily, I think, designed for floor rugs. I don't know, like the piece you're doing on is really small, Beth.
Oh yeah, I would not normally, I don't think I'd normally finish this way. I probably would have finished this with just like a royal blue whip stitch.
Mhm.
Even though that would have kind of messed up the dimensions of the graphics, but
Right.
I have these little pieces strictly for this purpose.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to this corner pretty quickly because it's only 6 inches. So yeah, I don't know if I would normally twill tape bind something like this,
Mhm.
but it makes a great little demo. So,
Yeah.
and if I were doing this, if this were like a rug, I probably would have used like a royal blue tape too.
Right. Right.
Um,
And
anyway,
could this be something you would do if you were going to turn that little thing into a pillow?
I would not use any tape if I were
Wouldn't
doing a
do twill
pillow.
tape.
Yeah,
Okay.
in fact, we are gonna do a pillow next.
I think okay. Okay.
But
You wouldn't
so
do it for that. All right.
I wouldn't. No, I don't use twill tape in combination with pillow finishing.
Okay.
So the other thing I want to say about this is the woman who does my rug finishing for me when I do hire it out, Edna, she does this thing with whip stitching where she puts twill tape on at the same time.
What?
Yes. So I would personally never do this because I feel for me, it's like belt and suspenders, but it is a nice finish. So she likes to super protect her rugs. So if she wants a whip stitch finish, a lot of times she will have the tape. She'll have the tape here. And as she's whipping, she's catching the tape in the whipping.
That's making my fingers hurt to think about.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. And then of course she tacks it down afterwards, just like we do with regular twill tape binding.
So she's right. Oh my God. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it's very
Yeah.
labor intensive, but she likes
She gives it a nice little whip stitch edge and then just tacks it. Wow.
and then she's got the protection on the back of this as well.
Yeah, because normally if you're whipping something, you're wrapping up the remainder of your yeah.
Yeah,
You have
Yeah.
nothing to tack down on the back.
that's right. So
Oh.
she ends up doing all of that. So when I do this corner that's coming up, it's going to end up looking like this. It's kind of like a box lid. Right.
Yeah.
So when I start to get near the corner, instead of going every 2, I start to go, I'm just going to do one more under 2. But then as I get really close to the corner, I start to put a stitch at every loop because the corners, you're trying to bring it, you're trying to finagle it around. And also you want your corner to be really strong.
Okay.
So I'm going to go and put a stitch at every loop.
Yeah. I've actually watched your YouTube, but it's good to see this again.
Yeah, plus, like you can ask questions. Although people are really like
Your
some of
video is pretty thorough.
people are telling me that, and I feel
Yeah,
like
it is.
I feel
And
like
that's why, I'm one of those people that has to see something like multiple times before I dare do it.
yeah. So I'm at this point now. Did I make a stitch there? I'm like so busy talking, I can't remember what I just did.
That's okay.
I'm making a stitch right at that corner. And now I'm going to turn it. And this is where, you kind of just have to hold it in place.
Mhm.
You're making a box with that corner, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then you'll be able to fold it in and miter the back somehow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go in right there. Now, when I do the pillow, I do a little extra stitch at the corners, which I'll show you when I get to that.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, and so there, I've made it around the corner. Again, I'm gonna go every one for just a couple to really nail down that corner. And it does get a little fiddly.
I can't imagine whipping through the binding tape.
I know, she does it though, I've watched her.
That's why I said my fingers hurt thinking about all the pushing and tugging.
I
Wow.
know, she's a trooper when it comes to her rugs, let me tell you. And then she enjoys binding so much, like she doesn't do it really for the money.
She just likes doing it.
Yeah, she likes doing it and she doesn't charge a lot. She
That's so fun.
I think she did the finishing on Sherry Young's, some of Sherry Young's rugs. Some of those
Oh,
big rugs that Sherry's done recently.
huh.
Because she's you know, she's
Yeah,
here.
yeah, she's in that area.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's it. I've turned the corner and you know, there we are. So when you continue around, you're going to end up with, you know, a box, just like Jean said.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then what you do is you just miter your corner. If you are a quilter and really good at this,
Yeah.
your corner will look amazing.
Right.
But if you're me, you know, it's just going to kind of be like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I figure I'm doing okay with them because my mom's a quilter and she's seen the backs of some of my pieces.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the stitch for stitching this down is really just like a basting stitch where you're just
right. Yeah. That I got. Yeah.
yeah, going around. And then what I do when I'm finished, there's a couple things. I try to make sure when I make this miter, it's not going to pop up over
Yeah.
the loops. So that's kind of important just to like really make sure your miter is hidden.
Yeah.
And then once I'm done, once I've stitched it all down, I'll give it another pressing.
Yep.
I actually press the tape down again because it's, you know, it's still just a little puffy when you get done stitching it down. And, you know, I've had beginners ask me this question. You're just really stitching it to the backs of the loops. It's not like you're not going all the way through the rug.
Right. Right.
I've actually gotten that question, so I'm just going to clarify it there.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and then I just press it and it ends up, you know, looking really neat and tidy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives you a nice surface. I noticed like on jeans to write your name, to sign it. It's much easier than
That was embroidered. But yeah.
that was embroidered.
Yeah.
Now I feel really inferior.
Don't worry. That was my
Wow.
first rug. I was trying to do everything just right, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a nice way to do it.
So this rug is a pillow.
Okay. Yep.
So with pillows, that pillow finishing video on YouTube has been viewed over 15,000 times.
I've watched that one also. Yeah.
Which I'm shocked. I wish I could have monetized it.
Well, because you really are very thorough. I mean, there are parts where I whip through a little, like I jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're very thorough about it.
I try because I feel like, well, I mean, having taught so much, I know that questions come up that I might not anticipate coming up. So
Right.
I try to catch them all when I'm doing a video. So like the video says, when I go to measure the back for the piece, I always make sure that it is the same size as the piece plus the serged edge.
Yeah.
And I guess that's something that we haven't covered, but I know that this class knows it, is that when your piece is finished, you steam it and then you cut off the edges with either a serger, which is a 4-spool overlock, or a zigzag.
I
with a
do,
regular
yeah, I don't have a serger, so I zigzag, yeah.
Yeah, and then you just cut the edge. But it has to be, you know, the backing has to be approximately the same size as the piece plus this. So you can see that's how I
Yeah.
cut, you know, tore it. And the other thing is that people are usually kind of, their inclination is to make the back bigger. So because they're thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna stuff it. And that is true, you are gonna stuff it. But
Yeah,
if the back is too much bigger, you're going to end up with like gathers and pleats, and it's going to be too much.
Yeah.
And that even works given that my particular rule of thumb is that if I'm doing a 12 by 12 pillow, I'm going to stick a 14 by 14 form in it. I never go with the size, or if I'm making the form for it, because I make a lot of my pillow forms, because I don't do like, I do like these crazy irregular sized pillows, so they don't, you know.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I will pin the piece up, you know, approximately where I want it.
Okay.
But then as I'm stitching, I'll also just have a pin kind of holding the backing, where I have folded it, you know, in and in.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yep.
Okay. So I just need to thread a needle here. I've been using this piece as a demo for a while, and it's got all kinds of different threads on it. But you should, what you should be doing is trying to match the thread to the backing. So you're going to get itty bitty teeny tiny stitches showing. And, you know, I would never have called myself a hand sewer prior to doing any of this, and I still don't. I just, sewing is not my thing.
So
But
you
funny
hand
how-
sew it all together.
what? I'm sorry, what?
So you hand sew it all together.
Absolutely.
Oh, I zipper footed mine.
Yeah,
Can are you able to hide all the,
No, but I put upholstery cording around to hide that.
oh, see this, with this method, it's you know, you don't have to, there's nothing to hide.
Okay.
no, I've been
So-
like you. I haven't made a pillow out of linen yet, but I have always done a zipper foot.
So, and you can see where I used white thread just as a demo.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing shows.
Yep.
So, but I mean, here's the thing, with the other two methods, you've got like a decorative edge, which is nice too. So
Yeah.
again, you know, a bazillion ways to do everything.
Mhm.
But if you don't want to have to do that step, this is gonna totally hide your edge. There's no edge to hide.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna make sure that I had this is the same stitch that we just went over. Okay. So here I am, and as I'm stitching, I am paying attention and finagling that edge.
Right.
So I'm going to go in just like I did with the twill tape. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to really pull it tight. I think I actually got to the corner in my video.
I think you did.
So I'm not sure. It would take a while to get to the corner here. So I may just tell you what I do at the corners. And then also you can watch it on the video. Oh, this thread feels a little stretchy. That's weird. So I'm doing exactly the same thing I did with the twill tape. Making sure that I pull as tightly as I can into that front side so that there's nothing showing.
That's a slip stitch.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know what this is called. Is it a slip stitch?
Is that what you're going to the front and then going through the fold of the backing?
Yeah, it's exactly the same stitch we just did for the
Yeah, I think it's called a slip stitch.
But you're not hiding the stitch in the back though.
no, you can see a little bit of stitching,
Oh,
but
I think she's just wrapping it over,
oh, okay.
right?
I am just wrapping it over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll show you in a second.
You're not doing slip stitch then.
I tend to do like a slip stitch is what you do when you're closing a hole.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what-
yeah, no. This
That's
isn't
what
that.
I do
I
to
know what
close
you're
a
talking
hole.
about now. So no, so it's just, see how you can see
Oh,
the
I can see the little stitches now.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can see the
yep.
tiny stitches and then, but they disappear even more
Mhm,
when it's actually a pillow, when you
Mhm.
stuff it. So
mhm.
they, if you make them really tiny, they disappear. You don't see the edge. And what I do at the corners, which it would take me a while to get to this corner, and I don't think you need to. So what I do when I get to the corners is I do the same thing that I did with the twill tape. I start to do every one, but then the other thing I do is, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see there's a little tack stitch right there?
Yeah, yep.
I actually go while I'm working around the corner, I go and I put a little tack stitch. I just go down through the front here,
Mhm.
put a little tack stitch there, come back up and then continue around the corner, because I just find it keeps the corner even more secure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of locks it in place in a way.
Yeah, it keeps things from shifting around or anything like that. So that is how I do pillows. It is exactly the same as the way I do the twill tape. It's just that, you only have to go around once. And when I'm doing a pillow, I start here and go around and make this the final seam
Yeah,
on the bottom.
yep.
Because if there's any place that you're going to get messed up, I don't anymore, but when I was a beginner, I did. If there's any place you're going to get like bunching or anything that's not quite perfect, it's
Mhm.
going to be this bottom seam. And that's usually where, the pillow's sitting.
Yeah,
So if you do have a little bit of any kind of hiccup on the bottom, it's not as big a deal. So I always do the bottom seam at the end after
what
I've
I like about this method is because when I do them again with punch needle pillows and monk's cloth, I'm doing them in reverse, I have to inside out my pillow afterwards.
Yeah.
This way it's just done straight up.
Mhm. Yeah, it's done right side
Right.
out. So I like it. I like the simplicity of it. If I were going to put a decorative edge on, like a whipping or a cording or anything like that, I probably would just zipper foot it.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
to get it done quickly.
Yeah.
But if you want just the plain pillow edge, you kind of have to hand sew it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I had put a zipper in mine anyway, so I could take it off and wash the pillow if I had to, or it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
zippers are not something I've mastered yet.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you can do if you want to be able to do that is make a flap.
Yeah.
So you can sew this on in two
Yes,
pieces.
I've done that.
Yeah. So, and just have an overlap.
Mhm.
And that's a good idea too. When I've had to wash, the one time I had to wash a pillow, I zipped the bottom seam open and just re-sewed it.
Yeah.
But it is easier if you have a zipper or a flap or something like that in order
Yeah.
to.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks for showing us that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good.
Okay. So I do not know where the zipper foot on my sewing machine is, but I still will, if I looked another 10 minutes, I'd probably find it. But so I use a zipper foot when I am making corded wool binding. And so what I do usually, so I'm just going to use like a little demonstration piece here. I guess I should spotlight this again. I'm just going to use like a little demonstration piece, but what I normally do when I'm doing a corded wool binding is I'll have like some yardage possibly, so that I have to put, especially if it's a big rug, so that I have to put as few joining seams in it as possible. So, how big the corded wool binding that you're making for your rug is going to depend on the size of it. Like if it's a smaller piece, I used to make these, it's been years, but I used to make these for people like commercially as a service. If it's a small rug, you might just want like 2 inches wide and a relatively small cording. I've got this cording, which is not
Okay.
very thick, but if you were doing a big rug, you might want some pretty thick cording to go in there. Anyway, so I'm just gonna cut a strip, and I'm gonna cut it maybe, where's my, I'm just gonna, maybe I'll cut it 3 inches. Just gonna make a little snip right there. And just tear it.
Okay. Yeah.
And then what's going to happen is, and I can bring my sewing machine over and I'll show you. So there's a couple things when you go to start it.
Mhm.
You're going to want to kind of leave a place, like the cording's going to go in here,
Mhm.
but you want to leave like a little bit of an opening, like you're going to want to pin this and leave this a little bit open, because when you go to join it,
Right.
when you're applying it,
Yeah.
you're going to want to be able to finagle that on.
To like slide the pieces together almost.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then, we're just going to do like this is really just going to be
No, this is good though. It's like a rough idea.
yeah. And I have the sewing machine right on the table. I don't have the zipper foot in it. So what you're going to want to do is lay your cording in, bring this over like
Mhm.
this.
Mhm.
And then I also pin this because I want to know that it's not getting wonky. It's not.
Now you're not bringing the edges together. Is that intentional?
Yeah, that's intentional.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I'm just, let me get another pin in it.
Okay.
So I'm going to run the zipper foot
Right along that edge of it.
right along this
Yep.
edge here.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't know if either of you need it. I could show you just with the regular foot on the sewing machine. It won't be quite right, but
That's
so
I get what you're doing though.
yeah.
Okay.
So what I would do next is I would run the zipper foot
Right along
right
here.
flush along this edge, and it's going to put a seam in it.
Yep.
And the seam will show from, the other side, but that's okay, because this is the wrong side of the binding.
Got it.
So when you go to put it on the rug, let me just get a little rug here. It's going to go like this, wrong side of the binding to the wrong side of the rug. And so now you've got your cord right there.
Uh-huh.
And when you go to stitch this on, exactly the same stitch as you used with the twill tape. You're going to go in every 2, just catch that cording so that you're sucking the cording up against.
So kind of hitting it.
rug.
Are you trying to catch the cording like as close to the bottom of the circle, so to speak? Like,
yeah, you're going to catch the cord. Well, and you're not going to put your needle into the cord itself.
no, but you're
just
going to
into
catch
the
it like
wall.
down where where you've sewn almost.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? Because there's going to be a stitch from the zipper foot right
You're
here.
going to catch right down there.
And you're going to catch right down there. Again, you're going to have like wrong side of the rug to wrong side of the cording.
Yeah.
And then do that catch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to suck it up against the rug. And you're going to have this really pretty cording wrapped around your rug.
And then how do you finish off the back side? Yeah.
So this would be the back side.
Yeah.
And some people will fold it under just a little bit and then baste it down. But frankly, I think that adds a little bit of bulk. Okay. So I personally just stitch it down.
You just run a
what-
stitch along there. Yeah.
I just stitch it with that
Mhm.
basting stitch the same way that I do corded wool.
And the
or,
wool will
quilting.
hold up just doing that without having that
It
exposed
does.
edge.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You might
Even
want to
as
go
a
in
rug or is this more like a decorative piece?
Yeah, I've seen this is used often on rugs.
Okay.
Yeah, like on the floor. And
Yeah.
they wear okay. I mean, I don't think you'd want to be just on the hairy edge of this.
Right.
I think
Okay.
you want to go in a little bit
Yep,
so that
yep.
you're not in a place where it could ravel. But if you're worried about it at all, just give it a
A
little,
little, yeah.
just give it a little fold. And
That's
then
cool.
you know, again, just like the twill tape, press it when you're done.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like
And then
the
when
way,
you get to that joining part, you just kind of slide your two pieces together.
yeah, so you'll have an opened end here.
Okay.
And so, you know, you're going to take the pin out and just kind of gently fuse them together,
Them
like put
together.
one inside the other and then stitch, hand
Okay.
stitch. Yeah.
Do you need to stitch up that split?
A
See
little
how you-
bit. I mean, you
Yeah.
can if you want to make it. Yeah. I usually don't leave a lot there. I usually leave like maybe an inch open.
Okay.
Yeah, because the other thing is on the other end. So on the other end, this is important. I'm really glad we talked about this because it's been a while since I've done corded wool. You're
Hmm.
going to want to leave a little bit of the cording out on the
Got
other
it.
end because you're going to go into that hole and join, just kind of put them together
Right.
and then stitch them down. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a really neat, nice finish. Like I like this a lot.
Mhm.
I don't do it that often because as you can see, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
Yeah.
first you have to actually create your binding,
Yep.
and then do all that sewing and all of that. But
Yeah.
it really is a rewarding finish on some rugs.
Yeah,
Like
it's very
just,
pretty.
it's
Yeah.
really, really pretty.
And I
So,
have to say, like, even, I mean, if you break down the jobs, right, it's a lot easier than, I just get tired of whipping.
yeah,
Like I
honestly,
like a rounded edge, but I get tired of whipping, and that's
I-
like a really pretty edge.
yeah,
Huh.
I think it's less time than whipping because, you
It
know,
is.
once you have this assembled for yourself,
Yeah, you're just
you
sewing
just
it.
run the sewing machine down with the zipper foot right on, you know, the purpose
Mhm.
of a zipper foot right on the edge.
Mhm.
And it's great.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I
like
really
that
like
one.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab, as an example, this piece that Susan gave me and take a look at how she mounted it because I regard Susan as absolutely expert in that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it's not, you know, like it's not super neat perfect. So I'm just going to run up and get that. And it's I think it's a neat finish. So let me grab it. I should have brought it down last night.
Yeah, I like seeing how people finish things because when you're thinking about selling something, you want it to be finished,
Yeah.
right?
And you have to be cognizant of how much time it's going to take and how many
Well,
materials
right. So you have to balance those things.
and what's going to look good, the function,
Mhm.
the function and the aesthetics, somebody told me, as well as the practical.
Mhm. That's why I'm always asking people to show the backs of things because I want to see it. Like,
Yeah.
I want to understand what they've done. Okay.
Busy embroidering,
Are you
polygonatum pubescens.
Oh, are you doing that? Okay.
That's what I'm doing today.
Are you doing it on little tags kind of?
No, it's a big piece of wool and it's going to run right through the middle of that piece.
Got it. All righty.
I like it.
Yeah, I
All
do
right,
too.
so this is the piece that Susan gave me. This is
Oh,
the kind of
yeah.
thing that if the house were on
Okay.
fire, this would be one of the things I'd grab. So this is actually mounted on stretcher bars. This is like a fabric.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And you can
linen or
see-
cotton.
Yeah, you can see she whipped it first.
Yep.
And then on the back,
Oh my gosh.
stapled.
Yep.
And then she has driven in, like a framer would, she's driven in these eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And
So she stitched the piece to the backing.
she stitched it. Look at the
Mhm.
stitching. And
And
you
what's-
can tell she didn't have like a super precise rhyme or reason for that stitching. It was just like, I'm going to get this on here in a secure way.
What's the material that what is that material that's stretched across the frame?
It's like you can see it's raveling here. It's
Yeah.
like a cotton.
Is
It's
it like a kind of that, like, what's it called? Cotton, like
muslin?
duck cloth or something? Is it kind of
It's-
heavy?
Yes, it's a painter's canvas is what it is. And
Oh,
they
okay.
come in different grades, and you can get them covered with cotton that's been gessoed or painted,
Okay.
or you can get them covered with linen, which is
Ah.
what painters prefer. So it doesn't really matter, I don't think, for our purposes, because cotton or linen, it's fabric
Mhm.
and it'll stand up. And
That's
cotton
cool.
less so than linen, I suppose, but it's been covered with that gesso, which is basically inert material, right? That's what artists paint on.
And so
oil.
it's archival-ish, and it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's really neat. And
Oh, I like how she did ropes on the top ship.
oh yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
So
got,
creative.
yeah. So anyway,
Interesting. Okay.
that's and like this is essentially, when I go to do my little landscapes, what I'm going to do instead is just wrap them around something like
That's
this
so
and
like,
then
yeah, 'cause
staple
that's
them.
it makes me feel so much better because the ones
like-
I've done, I just did,
Here, let
I
me
just-
spotlight you. Hang on.
these
Oh,
were the
fancy.
frames that were like those kids' canvases, and then I ran a ducks. I just had some, I think this is like a muslin or something. I just wanted something to cover the back. And then I just put my piece around it.
Yeah.
Stapled it on.
The only difference between yours and hers is that she doesn't have the staples in the actual piece.
Correct. That's correct.
Only
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
So, and
That's
it might
because I
be
chose to
worth
wrap this
asking
one
her.
around, but she
Yeah.
did a finished piece that's affixed to something, which I like that idea too, because it gives it a frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has
Might
a
And
be
it
little
gives
worth
it
asking
dimension.
her. Might be worth asking her if there's any difference archivally between having the staples through your piece and having it sewn on.
Yeah, I can ask her. I know that
Sure. I know Meryl Cook does it this way.
yes, I was just going to say that. Meryl
Which is
Cook
partly
does.
why I felt like I'm going to try it,
Yeah.
because I don't know that
No.
these pieces these are like my own series. I don't know what's happening to them. So if they're staying with me, I don't necessarily care, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
but still, you like to know for future reference, eh?
yeah, I only have one piece I made that I think I posted. I made it, it's a gift for someone that I put a back on it. So I've covered all the staple work and I
Yeah.
think it'll be fine, but
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Susan Feller?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Susan,
Yeah, I could, hi.
I was showing this piece. Hang on, I'll make it bigger. I was showing this piece because we've actually already been through all the stitchy type
Mhm.
Yeah.
things. So I was showing how Susan finished this piece.
That is nice.
I love that
Great.
idea.
Yes.
Because I like how it takes a piece that otherwise I would think to just hang it like that, like just a rug piece, but then she's affixed it to that, which is so nice.
Well,
Yeah.
I did take her finishing class.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what I did in that. I mean, I'm not saying this is any stellar thing, but this was my first attempt, and this is how she
So you're
recommended.
like me.
So-
Yeah, that's
Okay, so yeah, it's fine then.
You
Yeah,
fold
that's-
it under, and then, she suggests putting, like something on top.
yeah,
if
so
you
that's
want.
what I did too. Because
Yeah,
this is
like
my
you did.
other one that I put a black piece of fabric, but it's the same thing. It's just
She
like
means
the
like kind of like that, like you did for that church piece, right?
yeah.
But-
Yeah, that
Sorry.
church piece, I just took a piece of quilting cotton that I keep a stash of that, and I don't even think I
That's
sewed it. I just ironed
beautiful.
a hem, and then I just went through and did a slip stitch around the whole.
Yeah. But anyway, this is how she teaches it.
Good.
Okay.
just
Well,
so
if
you
it's
know.
good enough for Susan, it's good enough for me.
But you
The
know, you
only
do
catch I
zigzag,
had in
of
doing this
course.
one, where I had to slip stitch the back on, was I had to use an upholstery needle, like the ones that are like
Yes.
a U shaped, because I couldn't, this was so tightly on the linen that I couldn't get the needle through it a straight.
Oh, yeah, that is beautiful. Really lovely. Wow. Someone's gonna be very happy to receive that.
Yeah, I was the chair of our committee. I'm on a minister search committee. And yeah.
So sorry I'm late.
That's
But
all
I'll watch
right.
the recording. I'll watch the recording. I stayed up too late. I usually go to bed about 9 and last night I didn't got watching Ted Lasso and stuff.
Oh, I watched it last night too. That's like every Wednesday night. I'm like, I can't wait. Yeah. It was a good one. It's getting good.
Mhm,
I'm sad it's going to be over.
I know. But did you watch Shrinking?
No, I've never watched that one.
It's great. And
Is
you
it
know,
good?
it's by the same guy, the guy that plays Roy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He's the guy behind it.
He is. Oh.
I think that's why they're discontinuing Ted Lasso. This is really on topic, right?
Well, Ted Lasso needs
It's
to
okay.
end. I know, right?
Ah,
If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, feel good.
Anyway. So it can kind of be on topic because Ted Lasso deals a lot with mental health issues and
He certainly does.
it's and that's a big part of it.
You're right, it is.
Which you wouldn't get at first, but it's a big part of the storyline.
It is. So I washed my linen, well, you know, I washed my linen yesterday and then I
Yeah.
let it air dry. And then I put it in the dryer. And you know, if I was to iron this, Jean, this almost looks, this is so drapey now.
Maybe,
It's almost like that stuff, like if it was ironed,
yeah,
right? I mean, the
Looks like-
holes are a little smaller, but they definitely open up when you put your hook in. But yeah, so it's pretty soft, but oh my gosh, you guys. The lint collectory thing in the dryer. Full. I don't know if it was from wool. Or, you know, just from being exposed to wool, or I know linen would have an awful lot of lint as well, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see.
well, I
Yeah.
hope it works better for you.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. But I did spend some time in here and over on that aside is all of my wool's in the closet, it's closed. You know, all that stuff that's over there. I'm just not going to stir it up. Kind of like having asbestos. You just leave it alone, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
working on this side.
Well, all this discussion prompted me to vacuum my whole space yesterday.
Ah, you know, it does. What I do, I spray my floor with vinegar and then I just I sweep it and it just catches it all, right? I mean, vacuuming is fantastic. Dude.
Yeah,
I just want to, and then I did all the baseboards.
Wow. I can't get to my baseboards. I
I
have so much stuff crammed in this little space that I have that I've claimed for my space that yeah.
That's great.
Mm.
No, I
All
can't.
I'm sorry if I interrupted your flow.
No, that's all
Okay.
right. So basically we went over whip stitching, pillow finishing, twill tape binding, how to make corded wool binding and attach it. And then we talked about these other methods like Susan does. And yeah. So do you have anything to add to that? How have you been finishing your pieces for show?
I've been doing, well, this is a perfect opportunity to ask you guys. I do mitered edges
Mm-hmm.
and I was making labels, but as Jean pointed out, all of a sudden that stuff that I was using went crazily. I did order some and I looked at it, I thought, no. So I just write my name, the year, and then the title on the top, just on the bind, like where I folded it over.
Yeah.
And that's all I do. I keep it super simple. I used to put labels. I think they're beautiful, but I don't know where to source that. And also the printer paper I was getting is sticky on the back, right? So it's like an iron-on, which of course I don't do.
Right,
but that could be kind of messy if somebody else decided to steam it or do something with it, right?
right.
So I don't know if there's a source of real cloth for the printer.
I have something that I've been using that it's cloth. It comes in sheets
Yeah,
and I can run up and get it. Hang on, I'll
I'm
just
curious
get it.
if what you
if you've
use.
got a brand, bring that. bring it.
Yeah, let me see.
I'm curious what she has, because I landed on, because my mom quilts, and so she pointed me in the direction of these fabric sheets for inkjet printers.
That's what I've been looking for.
And you can, yeah, they're color fast. So you like, you print on them and you let them sit. And then you can rinse them underwater and then let them dry. And then they're good to go.
Okay, this is color fast, sew in fabric, okay.
This one is made by June Taylor. I think I got this on Amazon, actually.
Yeah, I'm just looking right now.
The Joanne Fabric also sometimes has
Well,
them.
here it is, there's $16.95,
For how many?
3.
There are 3 in each of these. I don't think I spent that much. but
Yeah,
I
June
could go look
Taylor's
at
are
my
here.
Amazon.
June Taylor's $87.84, $87 for 25 sheets.
Okay. Yeah, these you let's see. You print
10 packs,
it.
45, so $4.50 each, really.
Yeah.
This one is for inkjet printer.
Yeah,
So
so
we
yeah,
actually have a laser printer, but I've gotten this. Allow it to dry for 10 minutes, remove paper backing, set iron to highest setting, no steam.
Yeah.
And iron it just to set the ink. And if you want it to be color fast, so you can do it that way, or if you want it to be color fast, you rinse it in cold water after it's dried a little bit, lay it to dry,
oh,
don't
that's a
rub
lot.
it, iron it. So it's really pretty straightforward.
It's a lot of work.
I was
though,
just
but-
showing them what I use. I'm curious what yours
But the
is.
back is not sticky, right? Like it's not an iron on?
It's
No.
not an iron on, no.
This is a
Oh, there's
sew on.
another one.
Yeah,
Sew
that's
on,
what this one
okay.
is too.
So, I actually have a label
Yeah,
that is
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
go
they're
on.
beautiful.
it's like backed with paper, so it goes through your printer, but then you take that paper off.
Okay.
Right,
Sew on.
and I'll
brand is
trim
that?
this to a different size, but
Yep.
yeah.
What
What
brand is
brand is that?
yours, Beth?
Beth?
Oh, what brand? It's Printed Treasures.
Okay.
And where did you get yours?
I got it at our local quilt shop and it was $24 for 5 sheets.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
better
you know
than
what
mine.
nuts, eh?
I got mine, I think I can't remember if it was Amazon or Joanne Fabric, and mine's 3 pieces, and you just priced it, Nancy, at what?
$4.50 a sheet up here.
Okay.
So what did you pay per sheet
I'm
about?
gonna have to look at my Amazon. cart.
Well, I mean, almost $25 for 5 sheets, so that's $5 American.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not cheap,
It's not cheap.
but you can print photograph. I guess quilters use this for printing photographs.
My mom, that's how I learned about it, because my mom does it, and she'll make tags that are fabric, and she'll put them on, and she'll print photos, and yep,
yeah, that makes sense, actually.
it works well, actually.
Yeah,
And I've done it to make little mini labels for my business stuff, like, and then I'll just sew those on. hand stitch
Yeah,
them
yeah,
on.
no, that's really nice. One day I'll get those.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's what I had never really done a lot of labeling on my work. I used to have embroidered labels, like machine embroidered labels that just said Parris House Woolworks on them. But
Yeah,
for these pieces, these art pieces, I had to label 2 for solder last year, and I'm really new to labeling anything. I generally haven't been labeling it. I do label, like the big commissions that I've sent out of here, I've made labels for, but I want to say I hand wrote those on muslin with like a fabric pen and then stitched
and then
them on.
stitch them on.
Well, that's an
Yeah.
idea too.
I kind of like this though. I
they
assuming
look-
that it doesn't, the only thing I don't know about this is I wonder if it fades eventually.
Well, this one says to make it color, on mine it says color fast treatment. You rinse it in cold water and let it air dry.
Oh, really?
And then
I
you
haven't done
iron
that.
it on your highest setting with no steam, and you supposedly color fast it.
Oh, yeah, so that's.
You
the
don't
only-
have to do the water part if you're not worried about color fasting, but that's,
Yeah,
But if it's behind the, if it's on the back of the rug and no one's gonna be washing that rug, ideally.
yeah, the chances
then
are
it
it's
says,
not
because it
gonna,
goes on to say it can be laundered. So it's assuming that like if it goes on something like a quilt and you're gonna wash your quilt, it'll.
yeah,
True, that's true. Yeah, the stuff that I've got, that iron-on really, it's for stuff like kids going to camp.
yeah.
But I mean,
Oh.
where you just iron that on all their stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you want, like, the only thing I use an adhesive on is I know, we didn't talk about finishing those, is the coasters and table mats.
Oh, yeah, we should
So,
talk about that.
so I don't know if everybody knows. Let me go grab one of my coasters.
All right, so this is saying on my Amazon, for me, this exact same, almost exact same one, it says it's $7
For the whole pack?
for these three.
No. Oh, for 3. So in Canada, would that be 10, 11, 12 bucks?
Yeah, probably.
So it's
Yeah.
about the same.
I don't know.
Jean,
if
what
it's
do you
on-
put on
no,
yours? Sorry, I'm coming in so late and,
I don't know.
Right.
We've been
I
kind of
actually-
all over the map. Don't worry.
Yeah,
okay.
I lined mine with cotton, so I didn't mind putting the glue on the cotton. But if I
Okay.
was putting it right on the back of the rug, no glue.
yeah. So I don't know,
Yeah,
coasters.
no glue, yeah.
The
Here,
only time I've used glue is like, yeah, the coasters. I've done that.
I actually don't use glue on these.
Not glue, but
That
Yeah.
iron-on sticky stuff.
Yeah, so
Adhesive
you
stuff.
know, these are coasters.
They're
So,
beautiful.
what I do with coasters is, and this is actually, you know what? Let me see if I can.
I should add that I actually sew around mine after I press them down. And they have glue on the back on the lining. I still
Mhm.
sew around them.
mhm.
Gives
Oh,
them-
it look a little nicer. When I was very first hooking, I made some out of like a little house. They were just a little house and I just put that stuff with just our wool felt, the wool that hasn't been cut on the back. And I ironed that stuff on it. I didn't really love them. And I found, I guess, because I had to press so hard to get that to adhere, that the loops were all kind of squished. And I didn't know enough back then what I was doing, but I did give those out. Now I feel like I need to resend those to
Yeah.
make them again.
So I'm going
Better.
to use, I think for this, for explaining how I do this, I'm just going to use some screen sharing here.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Because I've got this process, I had this documented for Making Magazine. So share screen. Okay, you guys can see that. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
so basically, it shows me steaming them first. And then once they're steamed, let's see if we can, it's going to open Info Tour. We don't really want that. Well, anyway, so I run a little bead of glue right around the edge.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You can do that with a Q-tip or a finger or whatever, but you just want to get it as close as you can
Mhm.
around this edge. And that keeps it from fraying.
What kind of glue is that?
It's just white glue. It's Elmer's.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
You
I've
might
done it with tacky glue.
You can use Fray Check.
Mhm.
I use tacky glue, it's a little stiff.
I've
PVA.
watered it down when I've done it.
Mhm.
This gets cut off, so it doesn't matter. The only place this is securing is right at the edge. So
Right.
it's not like you're putting it on the back or anything. And then once I have it glued, well, I wish it weren't opening in Photor, but so I glue the front edge and I also do glue the back edge. And if you don't want to wait for it, you can use a hair dryer to just get it
Yeah.
dry for you in a hurry. Now, this material that's being cut underneath of it, this is called heat and bond.
Right.
And it's I think you're probably familiar with it. It's like
Yeah. I
a
have
plastic
some.
with paper backing. So what I do is I leave some on the edge and I cut my heat and bond about the same size. And then, so I've cut it, and then what's happening here is I'm going to take the iron to it now. So
Okay.
I've got a towel on the bottom, I've got a towel on the top. I'm going to put the towel over the top and iron it so that the plastic adheres to the back of that coaster. Always be really careful here, because one time I had the coaster flipped the wrong way because I wasn't paying attention, and I ruined the coaster because I got the plastic stuck to the loops.
Oh.
That was truly, truly awful.
Aw.
So, this is what it's going to look like when it comes out from under the iron. I do use a little bit of steam to try to really make sure it adheres evenly.
Yeah.
So then, peel,
Yep.
and now this is all plastic in here.
Yep.
And then I cut my backing piece the same size. And again, I after I've peeled, obviously, then I do the same thing. I iron that, and then that adheres to the plastic. And then, you just cut as close as you can to the edge.
Mhm.
And
That
it's
looks-
like the easiest thing. You don't have to worry about glue
Mhm.
anywhere on your piece that might get crusty or anything like that.
Mhm.
And these pieces are, I want to say I did this in 2018. These pieces are like the plastic isn't getting weird or anything. The hookers use them in the studio. The water doesn't make it through. The only thing is, if you don't like this edge, if you don't like
Yeah.
if you don't like that edge, you're going to want to cover it. Or, I've actually seen people take Sharpie to the edge.
Oh, to like,
I don't
think
really.
I did that. I think I did that because I used black.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
just
I
put a
used
little
it on
rim.
these ornaments. It works well on ornaments too. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
just a
yeah,
little-
cute. Mhm.
But this is the heat and bond. This is the
Yeah, it's the one
it's
that
the
wears
red
that
one.
edge. Yes.
This is the ultra. I made the mistake of buying the lighter weight one, and it doesn't work on.
I think that's what I had. I got the
On
lighter
rug,
weight,
I
it
have
wouldn't
it. It's
quite
like-
stick, so then I had to really iron, so like I say, my loops were all squished.
There's one that's like orange, and that's
Mm.
not. It's like soft stretch, and it's not strong enough.
Yeah.
Jack of my old orders.
Yeah.
So are there any other types of finishes that you want to talk about? Those are the
I
ones
did
that
this
I
one
use
type.
most.
I'm just
But-
remembering this as I look through this little bin. I did this one. These are ornaments.
Yeah, I'm going to
And,
spotlight you.
I didn't trust I think it was before I found the ultra
Mhm.
steel. So I just cut wool, and then I did a blanket stitch
Oh, nice.
just
That
to
looks
like
nice.
put it around. So
Very
you can
nice.
still see the edge of the monk's cloth, but I
Okay,
just
well.
figured it was lost with the little blanket stitch around.
Yeah,
With the
it's
white
decorative.
lettering, it kind of works.
Yeah, and it kind of just was kind of cute. It makes it a bit more folksy, I guess, and it just made sure that that was secure. I think actually this might even have heat and bond in it because I feel it. It's just and then I did like contrasting colors for a rainbow one.
That's cute.
That is
Yeah.
cute. That's the postal code, right? Or
These
the
are the
zip code?
postal code ones. Yeah, this one's a rainbow one. These are our school colors on this one.
Oh, okay. You covered all the bases.
Oh, people love them. I'm like, I don't do them anymore. Yeah.
I'm looking for that order.
Yeah, and I've sewn like these are little brooches I've made that are punch needle ones. And then I just sewed on I gathered the monk's
Yeah.
cloth in the back and just stitched on using Beth's technique in a way of little wool pieces on the back.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, very nice. Wow.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah, they're cute. Yeah, they are. They were meant to be little holiday ones. I had rainbow ones. Those all disappeared. I need to make more of those. So I'm organizing this year, helping to organize the Pride event in town. But this
Cool.
one,
Oh.
you can kind of see my stitches across the back of the wool, but
It looks
this
all
was
right.
using Rebecca's technique, Beth, of punching and then holding the loops under to create a bunch of tall one with a rimmed, you do
Oh, yeah.
you do
yeah.
a reverse stitch on this side so that it helps give them a frame,
Yeah.
and they stay upright. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's fun. So it's a fun technique that I
I
learned
assume
in
she's
her.
going to teach us that on the boat.
Yeah, well, she does that fun, I think it was through online studio. Where's my thing? I learned it in the sampler thing she had us do, which I don't know if she's gonna have us do that on the boat. But you learn all these techniques, punch techniques on a little sampler.
That's pretty cool.
So like tufting, like actually cutting the loops,
Yeah.
but you learn to do the low pile, like the framing of it here.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, wrapping things. And then this is the checkerboard, or I forget what they call it in punch too, but the checkerboard technique.
Yeah, I mean, we call it beading. I don't know why we call it beading.
I don't know, but that's what it looks
Kind of
like.
looks
on the
like
back.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
similar on the back, actually, to the rug technique.
It does. You end up with, because you're running on the same line,
Yeah.
but in order to get, you have to do them one at a time though. You just do really
Yeah.
wide loops and then fill in the gap.
Go
But
in
these
the
are the
back.
other fun methods, like she was doing again with punch. So on the back, it looks like this.
Yeah.
The front,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
long stripes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very fun.
Very fun.
And or this one, which was long stripes, but then running a stitch across them.
Mm-hmm.
All done with a punch needle. It's not like any of this was done. Anyway, but this
Yeah.
is the most fun, where you're just like grabbing the loops on the back.
Yeah. And make them high.
And that's why I was like, I'm making a bunch of these.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they're very fun. They remind me, they're like a punch needle version of the things that Meryl makes, her
Yes.
chakra.
Yes. So, yeah, when we were on Get Hooked at Sea last year, Meryl gave us all these beautiful chakra color hooked pins, which I just love.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Really beautiful. So yeah, so I mean, the finishing, it's such I personally feel like finishing is like part of the design. I think it's important to not just finish a piece and then be sort of unintentional about the finish. I think the finish is part of the design.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm going to show you guys the very first piece I
Yes.
booked, and you're going to laugh. I mean, I can't even believe I'm letting it be like this, but I am.
I would show you mine, but it's at my camp in Gray. It's not here. And mine is pretty messy, but I love it.
Looking at the things I've made for people when I was first learning, and I'm like, wow, oh, I'm so pleased you keep it on the wall, but it's really terrible.
It's not,
It's
though.
It's not terrible. It's
You
just
have
it's
to reframe your thinking on
just like
that.
how much you've learned.
Well, this is called naive, right? I was in a group in Victoria called the FemArt. We were called FemArt, the FemArt group. So FemArt, feminine artists.
Yeah.
And the first year we were together, we'd meet once a month and we'd have a book, like a different artist. We were doing Canadian female initially. And then we branched out, but so we'd have a discussion, we blah, blah, blah. And then we kind of got bored, to say the least. And then we decided, okay, well, let's each pick a word, put it in in the hat, so to speak, and we'll pull the word. And then we're going to create a piece around that word, like every 3 months or so. So this one was, I'm going to say it was reuse, right? So I was thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I had started to do, I might have just done that one kit, right? So I cut up a shirt. I cut up a shirt of Rick's. This is the sky. It was a plaid shirt or a
That's
checkered shirt. And then,
awesome. So it's cotton.
God.
and then the bottom is a dress I ordered online that was terrible, kind of stretchy,
Great.
and then a scarf, and everything in it is recycled.
Cool.
So I really enjoyed it, and looking at the back, not too many crossovers, but the finishing, you guys, it's atrocious. It's like beyond atrocious.
What
Like,
is
look
it?
at this. So it was
Oh.
a piece, at that time I was buying linen, I think from Deanne that was pre-finished, right? In that
Yeah.
regard. So I just went with that and just did the bare, to say the least, the bare minimum.
It's fine though.
I
But
think
you
it's
know, I mean,
fine.
for what the purpose of what it was, even if we want to talk about, I don't know, the word heritage, I don't know what word we use, but honoring the place this came from,
Mhm.
it wasn't about, I didn't understand about finishing. It's not too bad, actually. I mean, that's stupid. It should have been folded over, but the stitching's kind of on point, more or less. But anyway, this is honestly one of my favorite pieces, even
I
to
love
this
it.
very day.
I like it.
What did you
And-
use? What's in the center of the top of the lighthouse? What did you use there?
A big vintage button.
It's a
I was gonna
button.
say,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, an old button of my mom's.
And what did you use for like the waves and stuff? That looks like,
Oh, that was a gray scarf and a old
Oh.
pair of mitts.
That's fantastic.
I like it.
Few different gray things, a scarf and I don't know what, but yeah, everything came from old stuff.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I like it.
I like it too. Yeah.
I mean, it was fun. And that was actually the first piece I made. And we all, display them and talk about them. And I looked at that when I was up, like we kind of put them on this thing and I thought, you know what, that is not too bad. Maybe I'm going to go for this, maybe I'm going to do this rug cooking
Yeah.
thing. And I think that is really when I dove into it. That might have been when I got the kit actually, but at any rate, that was
It's
that.
nice that you started with something that was so like not structured, like that you just created your own thing, that your first like foray into it wasn't like a kit, or it was, I mean, you literally.
Yeah,
just
it was
dove
really
into it.
just, yeah, and I love, I had a lighthouse just out my window. But yeah, so anyway, that was fun. And honestly, it's there's something to be said about being naive when you,
Mhm.
like, I didn't know how to pull loops. I didn't know how they were supposed to be or any of that, right? So, gee, not bad if I do say something. Except for the finishing, I just couldn't resist showing you that. I mean, I could put the effort in and do it properly, but I'm honoring.
Well, when I think about some of the first pillows that I made that were like punch needle pillows that I sold, when I was, I do this inside out, it's good side to good side, sew around with the zipper foot, and then I'd flip it out. But before I flipped it out, for some reason, I felt compelled to then sew the monk's cloth to the remaining, like you end up with that remnant bit around, to
Yeah.
sew those two things together. Why did I do that? Like, why? Like, now that I know you want to have your piece be like a piece that someday you could dismantle the whole pillow and you could have it again, like totally just sewed around the whole edge and just did all this crappy stuff on the inside of the pillow that I hope no one ever opens it up. And
Well, I
anyway,
feel that way showing you the back of that stapled thing too, because that was the weekend I did the workshop, or that week. And I didn't know what I was doing, but that's when you were talking about you staple on the piece. I just wanted to show you that.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. And like I said, I felt pretty sure that that Meryl did pieces like that as
She
well.
does. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen one.
she does. She's the one I got the idea of getting, that there even were electric staplers out there, because she bought
Yes.
one not that long ago.
Yeah, it makes it so much
Sure
easier.
well, she said Susan had been helping her with her finishing, so yeah.
Yeah. So it's not surprising that they have a similar technique.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, kind of like, I think there's like until you start producing stuff, I think there's a mystery to how things are finished. And I thought there was some mysterious, glamorous, like whatever way of doing it, when really it's not all that glamorous, and it's not,
No, it's pretty simple. Like all of it is pretty simple. Of course, there are other finishing techniques out there besides these, and these are just the ones. I keep my finishing pretty simple, as you can see. Like I I really,
Bad.
I really,
Bad.
I
Bad.
do. I do. Like, I don't, there are people who do really
Elaborate.
elaborate finishes.
Like they'll
Well,
end up doing a
It
rug
can
hook,
be
like
an
a,
integral part of the piece, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thing. Like I have a piece hanging upstairs that has tassels hanging from it, right?
Yeah.
Handmade tassels and stuff. And those were a lot of work and stuff, but they make the piece.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's really, that is really integrating like an integral part of it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
it's showing.
Well, it's like that crochet edge
design?
video I put up last night. So I've never
Right.
done that crochet edge. But I feel like the way that woman is demonstrating it is pretty doable. Did you get a chance to watch that, Jean?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, it's pretty doable. It basically just puts an edge on it that looks a little bit like a braid. I did not find any knitted edge videos, but I know I've seen knitted edges on hooked rugs. I saw it was in Canada. I'm trying to remember where
One
we
of the
went.
books here, but that I have, but I wanted more specific instructions.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that the crocheted edge is pretty straightforward because you're actually going into the hole of the linen
Mm.
and then coming out with, you're actually crocheting around the edge of the linen, almost like a whip stitch, only it's a crocheted edge. Whereas I feel that knitting is going to be more complicated because knitting is a 2-needle affair
Right.
and it's a whole different
Well,
way
the
of
corners,
making
how do
knots.
you handle the corners when you're knitting? You have
I
to be very.
Oh, yeah, true.
It
don't
almost seems like
know.
you'd have to knit something separate and affix it to.
That's what I
I
think.
think that's what you have to.
Yeah, and then I'm
Yeah.
not a knitter, but then you can make a corner, right? If
Yeah,
you're knitting it
exactly.
separately.
I feel like with a knitted edge, it would have to be done separately.
Yeah.
But the crocheted edge is actually integrated right into the edge of the piece.
Sort
This
of like,
opens up a whole new kettle of worms. I mean, if you can knit an edge and attach it, that opens it up to all kinds of lace making
Yes.
oh, yeah.
with coarser materials and.
Well, it's like the people who do the braided rug edges, right? They must be done separately and then wrapped and affixed.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
I've done that, yeah.
So that would be like the person who I think does that in the most interesting way is Chris McDermott.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. So yeah, I've always just kind of kept it pretty simple. So how's everybody doing on their pieces? I know Nancy, you're just getting your.
Yeah, just trying to figure it out. I'm gonna do, I've been really thinking, well, you can talk to other
There you
people.
go. That's
'cause
all.
then
I'm
I'll
doing.
go.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Beautiful.
Wow.
well, it's okay. It'll work.
No, it's not okay. It's great.
My writing's not at the same slant. My elementary school teacher who taught writing would be horrified because it's different slants, but hey.
Oh, she
So-
wouldn't.
So you chose to embroider that before
Yeah,
you put it on the linen as opposed to tacking it to the linen and then embroidering through both.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll be a lot easier to attach. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put seed stitch on it, which is just little short stitches to attach it to the linen. And then I will have, actually, that'll be all over, which will keep it tacked down. The edge, I'm thinking I might do buttonhole stitch to actually attach it to the linen. I'm not sure. Buttonhole stitch might be too in your face. So,
Is that just like a really tight stitch, like I'm imagining?
no, it looks
Okay.
like a bunch of L's or U's on
Oh.
the edge of the fabric.
Okay. Okay.
And you can put it as close or as far apart as you want.
Got it.
And I don't think I'd put it too far apart, but I sure wouldn't put it too close because I think too close is unnecessary. Maybe a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch stitches, 1/4 inch. Yeah, 1/4 inch would work.
Maybe. And then are you just gonna straight hook around it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be inset. It's just gonna be inset a little bit.
Yeah.
Neat. How's your piece going, Stacy?
I haven't made too much more progress. I'm trying to get the trees going so that now I can start filling in up to about this line with the rest of
Oh,
the
yeah.
needles.
Yeah.
And then I'll feel ready to start tackling the top, but it's kind of, it's got a dimension now to it. That's
Yes, it
kinda nice.
does.
And then
And you
I
know,
you can really see, but I started to pull through some little stray ends just in random places. Just
oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
for
great.
kicks. And also because I changed the width of this tree and I had a little gap. So I took off the shade, the yellow that I had on there for now. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do about
I
that.
think that'll become clearer when you have the sky in.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and then I may leave a line that I can go back and fill in with a yellow glow if I need to. And
Yeah.
maybe the
Yes.
yellow will be more up here. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll see, but it does look beautiful and it really pulls in with the needles, right? They really.
Yeah, I think it'll look, once this is tacked down on there too, it
Oh,
adds,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
it'll be tacked down and it just adds a nice
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
bunch of
that adds nice.
dimension.
It
Yeah,
really does. And you
Kinda fun.
feel the majesty of the trees a lot more like that too, with the bunch
yeah,
of.
yeah. And I
gathering
think they pop off of the flat background, I think. So, but it's just, this part of it is very time consuming. Doing
Very
these,
what?
time consuming, trying to
consuming.
lay these flat and then, but not be so precise about it to let them be a little bit messy, but still, I don't want them twisting too much and.
Right.
Yeah, so it's,
I'm trying to decide what to do and basically because my well has been tapped so dry. I feel but all this what happens when you wash it. I feel very out at sea, I guess you could say. And the words, keep coming back to me. And I do believe my strength or my passion or whatever it might be does lie in the spirit of the land, so to speak. And up till now, I've been relying very heavily on my materials to create the texture, the feel, all, to have that sort of the layers. So I haven't put like any spirals or anything in the background. You know what I mean? There's no behind. I go like this kind of, and then I hook sort of along those lines. But now I'm feeling like I do want to continue to do, like I'm really drawn to like let's just say a band of navy or brown or something, and then a beautiful big chunk on top, more like an abstract, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like just one, like say purple, I don't know what, blue sky or pink, whatever it might be, with a band on the bottom. I really like that, or 3 bands. But somehow to kind of pull them into the sense of a landscape or a sense of place. And I'm not quite sure how, like if I'd have words in there that are just not visible really, but hooked, or shapes. I mean, that one, like people use a lot for skies.
Yeah, the swirls.
And I'm really trying to resist those things that are quite Deanne.
Yeah.
Like, right? But I'm just not sure. So I'm kind of drifting a little bit here. Any ideas?
Well, let me think about that.
I like the idea of the 3 stripes. I'll
Well,
say-
I love that. And whenever I see a photograph or come across something like that, thank you, Jean. I find, oh yeah, like the color fields. I love color fields.
Yeah.
And there's a play on words, right? Color fields. Yeah, I just want to communicate a little bit more into that in terms of the spiritual piece. And it's not spirit like in church, it's spirit in terms of the energy. And we might have had this conversation before, but that's what I told my kids growing up, like, is there God? Yes, there is. And, to me, God is in nature. It's in all living things. It's in everything, right? The seasons and cycles. So I'd like to communicate that somehow in there.
Hmm.
And you know, one of the Handhook Current did a thing for me, which was great for many reasons. In the fall or late, just before Christmas maybe. And it was one thing, like I know Linda Milrod I don't know her, but she was the head of the Mendel Gallery here. She's one of them in Bear Ep and Pappert. And Anne and Linda are both art from the art world. And Linda Milrod was the head of the Mendel Art Gallery in Saskatoon, which is a major public institution for art. So they know how to write. And that's what I found the most valuable was their writing. And one thing she said was, Nancy tells a big story with minimal elements. And I think that is really it. What I do and where I'm drawn is just the minimum with the story there. And I'm feeling like it's time for some new storylines or, you know, to enhance that, to make them deeper, I guess you could say. Not sure really, but because I was trying to tell stories with images. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know whether for you this is true, but for me, a lot of times the images come out of the writing. You know, like I'll write something and then I'll have like an image associated with it. Like something will come up for me that's an image, but it rarely, and again, I think this is just the way I'm wired. It rarely works the other way for me. I find that the images come out of the writing versus, you know, vice versa. But for other people, it may be in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I need the Kleenex, but yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, as you're saying those words, you know, my husband, like who teaches art all the time, he says, Nancy, you need to spend a lot more time in your sketchbook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't, as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I know I should, but you know, it's work for me, but that's the work I need to do.
Well, and I don't know about you, but just making a habit of sketchbook
Yes.
an issue, especially if you have a lot of people pulling you different ways, or if you have too many ideas. That's my problem. I have too many ideas. I go to my sketchbooks and I've only got a shelf about this long of sketchbooks, but that's for the last 37, 40 years, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at, well, and if you include the ones from when I was a teenager, you can maybe go 2 feet, but you know, there's so many ideas in them. I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think that is,
There's not.
yeah.
For me, it's the same ideas over and over. It's the same thing over and over and over. My little rabbit. I like I haven't used them a lot, houses. My one tree I like, but yeah.
But is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think the thing is that you keep bringing something fresh to your series, your rabbit and your tree, and like that. It's not like, you know, like Deanne has an exhibit right now in Halifax at the Gallery of Nova Scotia. And they intentionally made that exhibit about her wonky houses for the most part. It's like the name of the exhibit. Do you remember, Jean? The name of the exhibit is like a home.
Oh yeah.
Something around home.
Home is, yeah.
So I've seen the exhibit. And because I'm familiar with Deanne's work, there was kind of a part of me that was like, well, these are all the wonky houses and a little bit of landscape, but I know that Deanne does all these other things. But the curator of that exhibit wanted to just show how varied, I think, how diverse her art on this theme could be. And it's really impressive. I mean, so, you know, or like my friend I was talking about yesterday, who I splurged on the 2 larger paintings. One of which literally takes up almost the whole wall of my upstairs landing. He does a lot of things, but he does this thing with owls. And every single one of his owl pieces is different and feels just slightly different to me and says something slightly different to me, but it's owls. He's got a thing where owls are very expressive for him. And as soon as you see a Wilder Oaks owl, you just know, that's his work, right? So I feel like, is there really anything wrong with doing similar themes or the same motifs or icons over and over again if you still have something to say using that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like my rabbit, to me, it represents those things. It represents, climate change. That little bunny, little rose rabbit, she's really connected to the seasons, to all of these things I've talked about, right? That's her thing. And so if there's just a little teeny her in the corner somewhere, just watching what's happening out there, I like that. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe I've overdone it, but somebody said they want to write an essay on that.
I'm glad to hear you talk about it, because I've often wondered about the rabbit.
Oh yeah.
I have, I see it as your signature thing, but I'm like, what is the rabbit? What is the rabbit about?
Well, I really saw when that exhibition hung up, it was like, ooh, and I'd done one that I loved, and I should have made it on one piece, but I did 3, and it was supposed to be remember, growing up or when we had kids, at school, picture day is such a big deal, right?
Oh God.
And so I did picture day, year 1, year 2, year 3, and the rabbit got bigger and bigger and bigger. Nobody got it. It wasn't clear to them at all, right? I'd like to take those back and I like them a lot and just have them here. But yeah, and those, just the 12 by 12s of Rose, a couple of those sold, and I love those little things. Rose in the Sky series I did. But I guess that's what you have to do, is make what you want to make, not, I can't be thinking about.
Yeah.
I
You
can't
think about who's going to see it and what they're going to think of it, right?
Right. It's not time to step away from the rabbit until you feel like stepping away from the rabbit. You know what I mean? It has to be what you are feeling.
And that's where we get back to who was that thing you said the other day about we artists work in isolation? You have to work alone. You have to just keep working with this rabbit until you're done, until you're ready.
Yeah, and I'm not
send her on her way,
I'm not quite done. Yeah, I'm not quite done. But yeah, that, and then maybe just the band of 3, a band of 2, just play a bit with that, just some small ones
On color.
studies, and put them on my wall in here. And then over time, which ones really resonate, then make a big one. And that's the one that goes to the gallery.
Right. Yeah.
Studies of them, right?
Little studies.
Yeah.
I did say to the gallerist, I said, whoa, there's an awful lot of rabbits I see. And she said, you're the rabbit. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I just think, I know as somebody who's kind of following your work, I'm definitely ready for more rabbits. I like seeing the contexts that the rabbits appear in, and I like the simplicity of the design. Yeah, I really do. I like the simplicity of the design. Different artists are. There are artists who have to put a lot of detail into their work, and it's sometimes for me that's a little overwhelming as a viewer. When it gets really, I say that as a person who just loves Andrew Wyeth's work, which is detailed down to the last single brush, single hair brush.
So beautiful. Yes. So I get so subtle, really.
Yeah, but I do find myself, when I'm in a museum, I find myself I'm drawn to
colors and themes and not so much some of the older, like the more traditional paintings with the minute detail. But
Mhm.
that's just me. That's
Like
just
the old
me.
masters kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, this is good to hear, because I mean, like, yeah, my sketchbook, it is all the same, but it's just different lines, different
Mhm.
places for the horizon, and
Or
and then,
try
yeah,
adding pattern or color or anything like that in your sketchbook.
pardon?
Try adding patterns, try adding colors, try
Yeah, I
adding,
should do that.
just see what happens in your sketchbook.
Mhm. I
You know-
should, because now that I'm not working with yarn, I could, I'm gonna need to nail down what I'm making when I go like to the fabric shop or wherever I go to get my new materials. So I've got the colors and the Rit dye. I'm gonna do that for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so what I have in my new stash is probably what I had in my old stash in terms of colors, pinks, blues. I don't use a lot of yellows or oranges, but
Hmm.
I guess I just thank you. A little bit of a pep talk. I appreciate it, because I do feel, I don't know, I just feel a little bit adrift, but that's okay. But the
Well, I mean,
writing,
like you said yesterday, you've just finished this huge project.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I probably shouldn't even be thinking too hard.
Well, that's where like playing in the sketchbook or doing
Yeah.
just little studies for yourself without any large aspirations and just see where
Mhm.
they take you,
Yeah,
especially as you're doing new materials, right?
yeah, true. Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
I don't know why this is making me think of it, but I'm the newest and like youngest member of a gallery committee at the UU church that I go to. And I was meeting with them. We were having a meeting one time, and one of the members was going through this sketchbook and she's peeling off post-it notes and whatever. And I thought she was going through her own stuff, just like looking through some stuff while we were chatting about business. And then as we ended, I said, "What's with the sketchbook?" She goes, "Oh, well, this was the sketchbooks of one of their late members, this woman, Mary Firestone, who was a painter and artist." And this woman, and so the church acquired like all of her sketchbooks because she doesn't really have family, but the gallery committee, they were all friends with her and they didn't want to lose these sketchbooks she had. And I think I've got one, but I don't know where it is. Shoot. It's I don't have it. I want to show you. Oh, here it is. She so all she did every day for years, because I took one because they were like, maybe it'll inspire you. She just did lines every day.
Oh, right.
She just drew every single day. She made a
Wow.
practice of doing these pieces,
Automatic drawing. It's
just
called.
like doing it. And a lot of her artwork has a very organic nature to it. Some of the members showed me some of the things she's done, but these were just her sketchbooks. This isn't what her art ultimately looked like, but it's just something she did. And they're just beautiful. Like
They
when I
are
look at them,
beautiful.
there are some that I've marked as like, I'll make that for the church. I'll find a way to interpret that piece. They're just amazing.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
But it's just what you were talking about though, like, and literally we have like 24 of these that
Wow.
are more, and she dated them. Like this one was April 2017, and she just did them every single day. Just
Wow.
did 1 page a day.
Yeah, I should actually do that. Maybe that could be my social media for a while. Sketch a day,
Yeah.
sketch a day, sketch a
But
day.
it's sort of like, it's so deceptively simple, but why do we have such roadblocks about even doing something like that?
It's
you know?
true though. And yeah, the resistance,
And
because like
I said, I didn't know her, but I can imagine that's sort of an exercise in just like freeing your mind, like people who do free writing, right? You just go in and you just dump, like
You're right.
whatever. This is the equivalent in a way of just like go in and go where the line takes you.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
And for her, I
Yeah.
think, having seen some of her art, it just was a way of exploring shapes that she was using in her paintings. So,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, like I did a bunch of little, like I like this little sketchbook. It's those dotted ones. What do they call those with the little dots?
Oh,
But I
yeah.
did a whole bunch that were just on that tree, right? Like tree line, thinking
Oh,
of
nice.
tree line. But I didn't do any, obviously. But now I want to do one like this, like the other day but that would be easy. I mean, I shouldn't say easy. Easy in my head is what I mean.
I find
Like-
that once I start doing that stuff, it just becomes, suddenly I'm addicted to it. Like I go through phases. I have my sketchbook is full of some ideas that come to me someday, and then you just dump it all down and it's nice. You go back and I don't know.
This is great. This
have
is
any-
conversation. I just feel so much more at ease.
Has anyone ever seen this book, Creating Sketchbooks for Embroiderers and Textile Artists?
No.
No.
It's a very interesting book. And it covers doing all kinds of techniques in your sketchbook. And it talks about the sketching process and media choices. And it really gets you to think, you know. And it has form. It covers all the different areas of the principles of art, like form and color and all of that.
Huh.
It really gets you thinking about what you can do. And you
Mhm.
went down, it really gets you exploring your sketchbook, you know, and then you can work on a finished piece after that if you want or not. So
Right.
True.
it just gets you thinking outside the box a bit.
Does anybody follow Donna Mulholland on Instagram? So she's
Yeah.
been doing this thing lately where she's just showing a short video of her doing like a watercolor sketch, like a watercolor piece, small piece.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's doing one like every day
Oh,
or almost every day.
Mhm.
And
she
she does,
just
she
show
hooks
hooking.
rugs. Yeah, I'm thinking it must inform her hooking.
Yeah, it must.
But that's, I mean, I find it very difficult to, you know, I know people who have very established journaling practices, both art journaling and writing. And I have not been able to get myself into that in a super consistent way.
mm-mm.
And I think it would probably help me in about a dozen ways if I did.
But why do we do that to ourselves? Like I have a lifetime of journals that all begin, I haven't journaled in a while. Here I am. I'm back at it again. Like they all begin that way. I'm gonna stay committed this time. And then the journal doesn't get filled and then it's empty. And then I go buy a new one and I start again. And it's just
Yeah.
like, why do we? So I'm now giving myself permission to just like, for a couple of years now, just like when I do it, don't start that way. Just
My older daughter,
start doing it.
we
you
used
know.
to laugh at my older daughter. She'd do that. She'd start one and get about 10 pages in and it'd stop. Then she'd have to get a new journal to start over again. And I said to her, I said, you just like the smell of new paper.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, like I would literally start them and go on for like 3 pages about why I haven't journaled. And I would feel, you know, it's like, what am I doing? Like,
You need prompts to
Yeah,
get you going. Some kind of prompt.
Prompts, yes, prompts are good.
Well,
why do
that's
we-
why Meryl Cook's creating space thing that she does.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
It's very good. Even when I don't get a chance to respond to the prompts formally, they're in my head.
They're in your head.
They're in my head. Every once in a while, like I have a journal that I know how I stopped doing it. So I'm just gonna grab it because it's sitting right here.
I've learned that I just have one now that it is the book that I write everything in. Like if I'm
Yeah.
feeling inspired to do a pretty page and tape stuff on it, I do it. If I'm taking
Oh.
a workshop and I'm going to write down notes from the workshop, it's all in the same book. So
Yep.
instead of feeling like I have to have multiple books for different purposes, I've now finally learned just have one book.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of which, I do have one book that says meetings, and it's for all of that. Like when I meet with my mentor, when I do whatever, I write it in there, and I forgot because I cracked open a brand new one for this.
no. See?
I
which.
use, when I was with Meryl, she does this thing that I don't know why I haven't been doing. I do keep a journal for like my work and what do I need to do next and all of that. But if there's something in Meryl's journal that she knows she wants to go back to, this is kind of her daily journal, like I have with, like I have this meeting, or I'm doing this thing, or I need this for the soap class this weekend. But sometimes she'll have other things in there, and I do too. Like if I'm taking an online class or something, she folds the paper down
Oh,
so
yeah.
that she can find it again easily,
Yeah.
which is the simplest thing ever. And I looked at that and I was like,
Makes sense.
why am I not doing that? But this journal I had really gotten myself into the mode. So this is from 2017.
Oh, nice.
I had taken a class with a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
You can see like every day I was getting out like
Mhm.
the watercolors and
Wow.
like putting on little pieces of ceramic. Like
Nice.
there's my dog. At the time, my corgi, and like I was putting in like little cards that my kids had given me,
Oh,
all of
nice.
that's
this,
so great.
all of this, right? There's my beef. So, but what happened was, I was like going great guns. I was like really,
Mm-hmm.
and then my corgi got cancer.
Oh,
Oh.
And I started to, well, there's Sunset Haven, there's my camp.
yeah.
I was starting to really come apart.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the cover of a card that actually Ellen sent me when she died.
Mm-hmm.
And so many tears.
Oh,
Oh,
Can't get off the couch.
oh, geez.
And then shortly thereafter, this is another view from Sunset Haven.
Did you stop?
I just stopped, and I had already had the pages like marked.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
my goodness.
So I felt like, oh, I can't, like, what do I do? Do I cry?
Well, you
You're
had
right.
a
What do you-
crisis. You had a crisis, and you reset.
Yeah,
But
you do.
this is the furthest I've ever gotten with daily journaling. And let's see,
And look
what
how
was it?
beautiful it is.
It was like May 3rd through June 25th.
Okay.
well,
Woohoo.
That's
so
great.
many
So look at the
different
details.
ways. There are so many different ways to journal, eh? So,
Yeah.
There are. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
try
I'll have to
different
go buy a new book. But what is that? That's watercolor paper in, like this is like pulp paper from Maywa here in Canada.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of these I have my nutrition business work in them. I could cut it out, but there's a thing about that, right?
Yeah, me too. Like I never want to rip.
Yeah, I
out
want to have a
pages.
fresh book. I should order some more from them. I have a couple of.
I
big
just
ones.
have these ones that I bought from Amazon that are just, I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
what they are. I have drawn in them and I have painted on them. They get warped though when I've done it.
Oh, I like that. I like that sketch you've got.
Yeah, this is when I was doing my like contemplation of my
Hang on.
my word of the year. So I
Yeah.
was,
Oh, good on you.
you can see like this is just like random.
That's good though.
I guess that was actual journaling. And then I was copying pages. I was going with potentially appreciate as my word of the year. And I was doing a whole thing of like,
I love that. That right there would be an amazing.
Yeah.
well, you know, it ended up kind of
At
beating the one I
the one
did.
yeah.
And then, but then I will do like, here's some designs for some ornaments. And then I landed on value. So then I, cut those out. And that's when I started to play with the
Oh, yeah.
I like
shape.
that.
I really like those.
Yeah.
But I just used like, I got into using watercolor pencils
Yeah.
because I would color, I would draw, and then I would just have fun taking a wet brush and just like blending them together and seeing what would happen.
Yeah.
Good
But then
idea.
like, these are my on the in the studio notes. And then a series, ideas for a series, you know. And then it's just like, I just do random things, but I should bend over. So sometimes they're just random drawings.
Yeah.
And I try to do them in like little, you know, scale size.
You got a lot in there.
Yeah, you
I
do.
do, but then I stopped for a while. Like here's I did a free dye class, natural dyes with Jean Haley, you know, took notes on her class. So it's just like, but I've learned that I have to just have it all in the same place. So
Yeah.
it's me like sitting down and actually doing an artist way kind of writing. It's in this book. And if it's a note about a piece of music I like, it's in this book. So I would never be able to find it again. Like, I don't know.
Put stickies with little titles.
Yeah, that's why Meryl's page folding is, yeah.
Or like
Well,
I
I'm
did
gonna-
our
that's
word
good.
exercise.
You know, that
the other-
meeting book, I've got to use it more just for that kind of thing,
Yeah.
but that's not really, that's not my sketchbook. That's more just like, this should have been in there, right?
But like our thing from the other day is all in here, like our
Yes.
word play and that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Or I
That's
have a design for in the rug hooking magazine, someone did a tutorial in there about how to make a zipper pouch. So now I have a design for a zipper pouch that I want to
Oh,
make.
yeah,
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. So
Great.
so it's
We-
just like, but I keep that way my brain is all in one place, except for
Yeah.
any town committees or volunteer things. I'm on there in separate notebooks, but
yeah.
And I think a lot of us who have done it for a while, and I like sketchbooks are like a brain dump for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I call them. It's a brain dump. Any ideas I have go in, anything I find that strikes my fancy.
Mhm.
Mine is full of patterns from other
Mhm.
places, paint chips, and the colors I liked.
Nice.
And that was an idea I got from Deanne Fitzpatrick. Pictures in art magazines that I really liked, the color or the form or the shape. And then I've got, you know, all kinds of notes from International Artist Magazine and stuff offline from, I guess this was from Wanda Care, but you know, there's stuff from all kinds of places. Style boards, this is all paint chip stuff for this one mostly. Oh, pictures of China from a book, Landscape of China or whatever it was, where there were some gorgeous pictures of somebody had done. Well, I could never hook them, but because they're copyright right to begin with, and they're
Yeah.
Right.
stuff.
But
But
they're
I could
inspiring.
modify them more. You know, I could do something different with them. So, and then I have my own sketches thrown in there, and it could be contour sketches, it could be detailed sketches, it could be, you know, it could be anything. I've got my pattern of the month in here that I did once, you know, I've got them in here. You know, I've got, gee, you know, I've got close-ups of moss between set stone on Pillars Fence in Beacon Hill Park on Dallas Road.
Hey, how do you like, oh, Beacon Hill Park, I used to live right by there. Oh,
It's a beautiful place with lots of inspiration.
it is, oh my God. Victoria's just like
And I still haven't done these ones.
endless
Moss
beauty.
on gravel between stone. I was really struck with this. There's that one.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Here we are again down here. I was
Oh,
gonna
nice.
put an abstract with it, eh? You know,
Yeah.
so there's, or not an abstract, I don't know what you'd call it. And then we went to Craig Derrick Castle. How do you pronounce that?
Right there.
Craig Derrick, which was full of inspiration. You know, they had all that stained glass and all the parquetry on the floor and stuff, and you know, patterns for borders. That's what I was looking at in the
Oh,
parquetry.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Columns had patterns on them. Those could be used in borders. There were spirals and scrolls and all kinds of good stuff, eh?
Mm.
And then up here, different circle patterns on square or nested. And this is interesting because this came from Craig Dorick. The red one came from Craig Dorick Castle. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
ended up using that approach in my South Korean rug,
Ah, yes.
one that I put on the wall that has the end tile and the roof tile end caps.
That's
So-
a great
Mhm.
idea for inspiration of stained glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just tons of stuff. And here's the poems that my daughters wrote that I use for the poetry series base. There's a Kleenex box. I like the pattern on the Kleenex box. Didn't like the color, but I like the pattern, And then there was an Artist Way collage that I did.
You.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyways, that's one of them. Like there's all kinds of things that can go on sketchbooks other than sketches.
I
Yeah.
think it's sort
I
of a
thought
place where
two
you have to
books
give your,
full.
what's that?
I do have 2 sketchbooks full, so it's not that I never do them.
Yeah.
But they were back when Rick and I were doing our more collaborative work together. So we talk about an idea and then we draw it, he'd draw it, and then I draw it, I change it. But I'm just doing, I have time to do me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if rabbits is you, and just think of all the different ways you can do rabbits and experiment in your sketchbook with them.
Right.
Because
That's what
rabbits are kind of
they-
your signature thing right now.
They kind of are, yeah. Instead of doing this, I'll do that. And then my one tree. And the reason that one tree came to be is because, well, there's one tree back here, but so Rick has a traditional, like his, if you want to say brand, would be 2 trees. So one's kind of round and one's like that. And I had drawn that at this piece. It was just anyway. And he said, no, like, you're not doing my trees anymore. You do your own thing. So I said, okay, I ripped out one tree and then I had one tree left. And it was more of a triangle. His are more like that, right? So I was like, okay, that's my tree. And then I just took a line of silk to it. And my hooking friend in Victoria, who I hook with every week, she said, oh, the name of that piece should be Tree Line. I'm like, oh, genius. Thank you, Colleen. And then I just took fluffy white all around it. The whole thing is just like rich layers of, wool. But anyway, I love that piece. I
Yeah.
have to say, if I do say so. That's another thing now is my one tree. My rabbit and my one tree. I could do something with that, but time to get the sketchbook out, girls. You're right.
We have in the community a journaling topic.
Mhm.
Do you?
Yeah, there's a journaling topic in the community that is not well used right now.
I know.
And we could either, maybe, encourage one another in that topic area,
Mhm.
or if you wanted a topic that was strictly sketchbooking, we could do that too. I don't know, whatever people think might be helpful. I feel like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think they can go together because it's just visual journaling versus written journaling.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so too. And I think we might even I think the topic may be visual journaling. I'll have to look at it. I
I
can't
think it
remember.
is.
We do
I think
have
it
it,
is.
and it was kind of started because I was sharing some of my stuff.
Yeah,
Done anymore, that kind of journaling, but we could certainly take that out and put it with just straight journaling or whatever, or
I'll have to look at how it's arranged. And I know when Mighty Networks changed their format a little bit, I had to do some putting things with other things, but I'll take a look at it and see.
just journaling / sketchbooks or something, because that's
Yeah.
is / studio chat. I mean, just
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of them being together because, like I said before, for me, the words always come first. I know that might be oddball, but for me, that's what happens a lot.
Not
So-
oddball.
not
So,
all happens
yeah.
that way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think a lot of people are just too, like, I'm too, it's like we were saying way earlier about like children's art, how children don't have any inhibitions about it. They just do it. And I think we are so, even with something like a sketchbook, right, which is supposed to just be like free form, we are critical about ourselves even before we put pen to paper.
yeah,
Like we imagine that even something like a sketchbook has to be done well and right and every
Right.
day and, and beautifully and,
and it doesn't.
like what if you had in the rest of that one, Beth, just like continued to be like, yeah, just wrote a word a day.
I know.
It didn't have to be like the beautiful pages you'd done before, you know, it was just,
Yeah.
they were ugly. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it makes me think like, again, of what I said that Haley Perry had said way back in that series thing of like, sometimes you just got to keep moving and just make
Yeah.
bad stuff sometimes and
That's
just
right.
capture ugly things. Or, but I mean, I know what she was saying when she said that, but she just meant don't judge yourself, just do it, just make it, and something good will come from it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's I'm constantly telling myself that, like, just don't judge yourself for why you didn't pick up your journal for 10 days, just pick it up and do it. Like, don't
And don't write an explanation and apology
write a
to yourself for
5-page
like
essay about why your life is, you know, gotten in the way.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't know, Nancy, that I would even drop what you're doing. I would look at what you're doing there on that loom and see if you could incorporate your rabbit in there somehow.
Yeah, I should. You know what I found, honestly, in terms of using it for purposes of hooking, is that the strips, like it's silk, and when it's woven, it's quite, you know, it's 1/4 of an inch at least wide. And
Yeah.
it's not really conducive to, like, I tried to put a tree in, you know, I could, but it's not really.
It doesn't hold it. Does it not like hold
It won't,
the loop?
I know it won't, I'd have to stitch a little bit on the back or something, but.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play more with that, using like perhaps like that fine warp thread, right? And just do a real grid. I've done tons of grids in the past with ribbon, and I tied each intersection, but that's not the same as for hooking, right? And I did one with twigs like that too, and tied them with silk, and it was quite lovely, but it's not,
Does it have to be hooked?
no.
Yeah.
I guess it
Yeah.
Because
does.
you could applique a little bunny on there.
I could
That's
do all
true.
kinds of
Yeah.
things. couldn't I?
It could just be a different medium, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I loved the way that was
Well,
looking.
that's just it. I hate to see you throw away that beautiful pink background. I just
Loved it.
Okay, well, I took it off and I tied it, and there's nothing on it.
It
It's
could
just-
even be added
I
on
think I hooked
top
one
of
row, I
something.
think.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You could add that pink on top of something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could actually.
Yeah, and actually, because you can kind of see through it a little bit, it could be really interesting depending on what you put underneath it.
True.
yes,
Yeah, but it was just so pretty.
it was.
It was gorgeous.
Still here somewhere. I pulled one row of pink loops in it just to say I did something with it.
Yeah.
But
So I guess I don't have any more like content. And usually like when I teach this in person, there's a lot of like walking around and hand holding. It actually does take up like 18 hours, you know, with people who were less experienced and also in person so that we could really play with the materials and all of that. So for this afternoon, I am, you know, I'm just asking the question, would this afternoon would just be like a gathering of working on pieces, having conversations like this, that kind of thing. So it's really up to you if you want to meet this afternoon and continue working on your pieces or whatever else you want to work on, or not. It's totally up to the three.
well,
of
you know, we do have our meeting later.
We
Yeah,
do. We have Biz Studio Chat at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I won't be here because I have to take Parker's Cove series to the photographer. So
Oh, you won't
Yeah,
be here
and
for the meeting?
I'm kind of on the fence. I have a number of things I need to go pick up related to this ministerial search thing. My life has been taken over.
Yeah.
So I have to go do that. So it might, I would be okay if we ended like now and I didn't come back later. But I think we have the group set up so we can share what we've been working on there.
Yeah, I'll go.
That's
get
where
one.
I'm at, maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've got Rick, yesterday I forgot was Rick's very last teaching day for the session, like for the
Oh,
summer.
wow. Yeah.
So he's
That's
doing
nice.
he's doing marks right now, and then he's gonna be done, and he's probably gonna wanna do something, because we haven't done anything. He's been working pretty hard the last couple of weeks, so. Yeah, I mean, and if you wanna, what do you think about the meeting later though, Beth?
I'm good with that. If everybody wants to, and again, you know, like show up if you want to show up, or don't if you don't. If you feel like you've been online too much for the past 3 days.
I would if I could, but I have a meeting.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll come, and I feel that, that's a different,
That's a whole different thing. And usually Naomi shows up for that.
yeah, she,
and,
that's why we can't just pull the plug because of us.
No, no,
Like,
no.
yeah. So
Yeah, and I'll come too. I don't
Yeah.
mind. It's 8
well,
o'clock.
I'm going to be interested at 7 in hearing about your experience with the photographer.
Yeah.
Because I have never worked with a professional photographer. I've worked with a professional photographer for like production product shoots. But I
Okay.
have never worked with one what like you're taking a whole series in there and he's going to shoot these for you as art pieces.
Yeah.
I've never, I want to hear about that.
Well,
You
I'm
know, if
glad-
you're up for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you tonight.
but that's a great topic, and I'd be happy to share a couple of the images that guy took for us,
Yeah, I'd love that.
just to see the difference. I can't actually quite believe it, and I wish, like, we have a piece, we did a collaborative piece that's in her 10th anniversary show right now, and Rick's like, oh, I'd like him to take a photo of that too. So it's almost like we need to get him on a retainer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't take money, he trades art. Like, he wanted a painting of Rick's, fair enough, right?
That's cool.
That's
Yeah,
actually common, I think.
I think so too.
My
with
father-in-law
artists.
had that. We have pieces that he traded with other artists. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way, that's, yeah, like, we've got a lot of art, and Rick's just traded it over the years.
Yeah.
It's been gifted or whatever,
That's how I paid my financial planner and my insurance or my
Hey,
investment broker one year, 2 pieces that I couldn't sell. One was on burlap and the other one was a Deanne Fitzpatrick's pattern. And I told him I can't sell them at the gallery. And she said, well, we'll take them.
Which
that's
is
the
really
way to
nice.
go.
Yeah,
That's the way to go.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that'd be a good thing to talk about, and then
Yeah, and whatever else comes up.
marketing, we could talk a little bit more about marketing, and
Yeah, and I'm going to email Haley this afternoon about that question regarding, the whole business of art that we were talking about yesterday. Because I think that was a spot on suggestion to have
I
her.
have a book. And have I read it? No. So this
I
gal's
just got-
online, the Jealous Curator.
Ah,
And create, this is like, again, Create Magazine founder, like all of those things. But they cover it all. But I mean, really, like, I've highlighted Instagram posting guide, it's like, woo-hoo, really. And how to use hashtags. So content ideas, throwbacks, old pieces, new pieces. But at the very back, she actually does have a 7-day sample for 1 month of
Oh.
social media. Day one, you want me to read a couple?
yeah.
Day one, finished artwork image, include details for how to purchase if it's available. Day two, an install view of work in a gallery, hanging in your studio or a home. It can be photoshopped if you don't really have a real one. Day three, another finished artwork image. Day four, older finished artwork image. Day five, something that inspires you, a quote, some other artist, nature, traveling, whatever.
Mhm.
Day six, finished artwork. Day seven, work in progress. So it's an awful lot of finished work. And
But that, yeah.
I feel like I'm bragging. And I'm not saying like everything's so
No.
great
No,
that
no,
I
no.
have, I'm just saying it kind of feels like a little much to always just keep putting up images of, endless
Yeah.
stuff.
And I don't think you need, I think, and again, like this is just like intuitive because it's not like I've had huge success with this, but I feel like what is partially missing in that 7 days is who are you? What is your story? What inspires you? You know what I mean? Like, what is really, like, what is that deep thing? Like for you, it's the spiritual aspect. And in the rabbit series, there's that environmental aspect. And so if you were posting about, that would be as valuable to me as, a finished artwork post. Of course I want to see the finished artwork posts too, but like understanding where the artist is coming from as as
Yeah.
a human that is not duplicatable by anyone else. Like the reason this art looks like this is because this human is one of a kind and this is where they're coming from.
I like
You
the
know
way you
what I mean?
said that. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. And you know, somebody said like write a blog, like it's kind of could be your little blog right there.
You could
right?
do that.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen, there are a couple, so our library has a, rotating art exhibits a lot, and they have some really cool stuff, and they tend to be local people. And so I've started to follow some of those artists, and ooh.
I don't want to interrupt you, Stacy.
Oh, no,
but
go ahead.
Neither do I, but I
She
wonder-
was holding that up and I'm just like sitting
Wow.
here in
Beautiful.
complete
What did you-
awe.
What did you use for thread?
Embroidery floss,
Okay,
6 strands, all 6 strands.
okay.
Awesome.
I knew it had to stand out against the rug hooking, which is
Mhm.
pretty heavy in weight visually.
So
But
how,
I debated whether or not to actually cut it down to 3 strands, and I might next
No.
time.
I like it like that.
can you hold it on your rug? Are we able to? see it?
I'm gonna try to in just a minute.
And then Stacy, I do want to hear the rest of that thought.
So all I was gonna
Yes.
say, I'll try and be brief, is that I follow these people, and one woman I'm thinking of in particular, a lot of, I think I might have even mentioned her in other circles before. The pieces they had on display were these embroidery pieces on found materials. Like she would find tablecloths at a thrift store, and then she would do these embroidered either strings of words, largely about motherhood or relationships. And so, but on her Instagram page, she will sometimes show those things, or if she has an exhibit, but mostly it's just like images of things in her studio space, which is a very sparse studio space. And she does a lot, she likes light and shadow. So she'll sometimes just post pictures of the shadows or the lights or the rumpled sheets on the bed or something that's just inspiring her, with very little commentary, but it's enough to keep me satisfied, so that when she does come around to show her art again, like a new piece, I'll know where it came from. So, ooh.
That's
It's
really,
way too big now. It's gonna be trimmed down.
Yeah,
So-
that is great. I love it. I love the way it picks up the color of
Mhm.
the stem, right?
Yeah. How do you
Um,
think you'll cut it? Do you think you'll cut it with square edges or rounded, or what do you think you'll do?
I was thinking actually of doing arrows,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't know if it might be too dramatic or too diagonal.
What if they were softened into like more like the points of leaves?
that's what I was just gonna say,
Now
like the
that would
leaves,
work.
like your leaves, if you were.
Like,
to-
like reminiscent of the leaves on the
Yeah.
plant?
Yeah,
That's a really good idea, Beth.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the way that came out though.
So would you cut it into two
No,
leaves, or just
no,
one
but
long
I
one?
will take off a fair chunk up on the top here because it's way too big on the top.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe a smidgen on the bottom, but more so on the top. It's just way too much on the top.
I love the idea of this as a series.
Is it brown? Is that embroidery floss brown?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. I like that.
Yeah, you could do a whole series. There's like books on herbs or books
Oh
on.
my gosh, yeah, it's like those plates that you see from old, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, well, plus Jean has like these sketchbooks filled with
kidding.
botanicals. Like she's already kind of done
You've
the,
already created your exhibit right there.
yeah.
Like if I
Oh.
curated you, I would have your pieces, and then I'd have cases where we could see your sketchbooks laid out open to certain pages. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well, just a minute. Oh, here it is. See, there's Parker's Cove on that side. Here's the new series in the bottom here. This is the first day of the class.
Look at you.
Oh my
You're
God.
so organized.
You
Jean, you are
are.
so organized.
That's inspiring.
It
Rosa has
is.
a series
But,
that's
you know,
got-
this is another one of those sketchbooks that has everything in it. This is
Yep.
Sketchbook Revival, which is a free
Aw.
online 2-week
Oh, yeah, I
class.
kind of signed up for that. It was too much.
I signed up for the, I paid for the extension this year, so I could do it.
Yeah.
And then here's my
Oh,
farmhouse.
Oh, yeah, look at.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and there's Parker's Cove in here, and there's the chair pad, the fractor that I did in Susan's class, I believe it was.
Yeah.
This was the beginning for the time one, which I didn't use.
Yes.
in the Dean Flagle's class, she didn't want us to use letters. She wanted us to use images. So that was interesting. That was good. And then I have my pressed leaves and
Yes.
some leaf
yeah.
ideas, and yeah, I got no short of ideas. I just
No
got short of
kidding.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's-
yeah, yeah. That's fantastic, Jean. That's going to be beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. I hope so. That's my plan. Anyways, I gotta go.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
maybe we
All
could
right.
all-
So I guess we'll see whoever
Tonight.
shows up at 7.
Yep.
Yeah. And then keep posting in the group for this workshop, because I can't, like, I'm excited about how these pieces are gonna turn out. And I
yeah.
think everybody else will want to see them too. Like I made that public so that people could
Mhm.
kind of follow along. So, all
Well,
right.
thank you for doing this.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Beth.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's fantastic.
Yep.
Thank
really
you.
great.
It's been fun spending a couple of days just kind of focused on this kind of thing.
What's
Well,
great,
I
it's
just
like
think-
going on a retreat, but learning something.
It is.
is.
And I just appreciate that this whole community you set up anyway, Beth. Like, it's just really great to have this connection, like, and feel like it's a safe place to go to, no matter
Yeah.
your ability or where you're at, and just say like, here's my ideas, here's my thoughts, instead of just that like infinite social media, this
Well,
is-
exactly. It becomes so impersonal and unsafe.
yeah, like you find certain people within that, but still not the same as this, where you can be much more open about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and it's like I had a conversation with Jean about this at one point, and I said that this community is as good for me as it is, people express that they really like it, and I really like it too, for all the
Yeah.
reasons that you're talking about. Like it's just, and I kind of had a model for it. It's a much bigger community, but the woman who runs the Squam art workshops has a mighty network that's very good.
Oh, okay.
But there's like 200 people on
Yeah,
it.
that's huge. But,
Honestly, that's, I know, like, in terms of like how many people you might want in terms of the financial piece.
Yeah.
This, perhaps it's small, but the quality is I think that disappears when there's 200 members.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's much harder to kind of navigate and dig into something in the depth that we do here when you've got 200 members on a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this was like, and I do feel, I'm not sure if you all feel this way, but look, like hooking in isolation, like I know, Beth, you're in the 23 collective, you've got that group, that's nice, right? And it's great for there's all kinds of benefits that come with that. Well, I'm obviously not part of any of that stuff,
Mhm.
but it's just nice to be able to have, like you said, this depth of conversation, this in-depth work time.
Mhm.
And it's worth it, because otherwise, when you're working in isolation, it gets a bit weird.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's
You
true. I
lose-
think
you-
there's
it's
like a
hard to keep-
balance,
Yes.
right? Like there's sometimes when it really feels good to be working in isolation. And like when I took that little break at South Thomaston in an Airbnb to do nothing but write and whatever else the heck I wanted to do, I really enjoyed that isolation, but I wouldn't want it all the time.
No,
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's
in a
how.
way, yeah.
I get it a bit.
it
Yeah.
has a sense of community that reminds me of, I mean, obviously Zoom wasn't around 14 years ago when I was a new mom, but it's like that, it's a similar
Mhm.
kind of isolation of like, as a stay-at-home mother, I was very disconnected from other people, and you forget that whatever you're going through and what you're working on is probably got some universality to it, and that
Yes.
there's others you can connect with. And not to make a direct comparison between motherhood and art, but
But still,
there is
yeah.
that, like, it's nice to be reminded that your thoughts, your concerns, your anxieties, your celebrations are universally,
Mhm.
out there, so you can feel better for it somehow. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyway,
It's true.
All right.
thank you.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you
lovely.
for
Hi, Jean.
coming.
Bye-bye.
All right. I'll see everybody.
Later, yeah.